Welcome again, Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Before we start the meeting, public presentations tonight. We have a huge amount of people that want to speak tonight, delegations, and they're going to be, because of the number we have, we're going to restrict it to 5 minutes. Okay, it would be 5 minutes for each person on the public presentations. So we have a lot of them. So I'm going to move right into closed meeting report. I'm going to go right to Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to report out to the public that council did meet in closed session just prior to the beginning of this meeting. Council met to discuss a proposed sale of town land, and this was in closed session as permitted to do so by section 239 2C of the Municipal Act. And at that meeting, council did provide further direction to administration regarding that specific property. And that's all I have to report at this point.
Thank you, Rob. Is there any conflict of interest amongst council members here tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to go to the adoption of the published agenda with an addition. Rob, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for council's information, we do have a number of potential additions to the agenda if it's council's wish to do so. 5 of those 6 items relate to additional delegation requests. These delegation requests would put us over the usual limit for delegations for a regular meeting. And I think 3 of the 5 delegation requests were past the normal deadlines for a regular meeting. But if it's your wish, Mr. Mayor, I will walk through these right now and then council can consider adding them as part of an amended agenda this evening.
Go ahead, Rob.
So the first delegation that we're proposing to add as item 6.5 to this evening's agenda is Ann Beneteau. She's also here with Monica Carruthers, and they are here on behalf of the Community Garden Group in regards to the 195 Bagot matter. And bylaw 1981 that's located on the agenda at 17.2.4. The second matter, also a delegation request from a Perry Basden. He's also here on the 195 Bagot matter, proposing to, if it's council's wish, of course, proposing to add that as 6.6. A third delegation request, Sandra McKee, also on the 195 Bagot matter, proposing to add Ms. McKee as item 6.7 on the agenda. And then the fourth addition on the delegations that I'm proposing to add is 6.8 is Carol and Lynn Quick, also here on the 195 Bagot matter. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's council's wish, but council could consider moving up. That would be the last of the delegations on 195 Bagot. So council could consider moving up bylaw 1981 from 17.2.4 up to 6.9 for its consideration after those delegations. I'll leave that up to council. And then our last additional delegation request that was received late is from a Mr. Thomas Brew, and he's here to speak this evening in regards to agenda item 6.5, the report from our Director of Infrastructure Services on the speed petition, and proposing to add Mr. Brew as 6.10. And as well, if it's council's wish, we could move agenda item 8.5 up to after Mr. Brew's delegation, once again, if that's council's request. And then the last item, proposing to add it under item 14 as new business is a email from Councillor Bondi with entitled emergency motion request. And so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bondi, I'm assuming the councillor is asking for this to be added as new business due to its minor and urgent nature. And if it's council's request, we would add that under new business item 14.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Clerk, can I remove that, please? I vetted it through some public opinion and I will remove that unless another councillor wants to bring it forward. I don't think it's going to be part of the solution though. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Thank you. So it's up to council. Is council in favor of listening to all these delegations tonight? Councillor Guerin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe just a suggestion. Many of the delegates that are wishing to speak tonight on the Bagot Street, I have a feeling a lot of them are going to be bringing up the same points of concerns, and perhaps being able to hear them all voice their opinion. Maybe we could just limit theirs to 3 minutes each, because I have a feeling that once it gets to, say, the 7th or 8th one, there's going to be a lot of repeat in it. And we want to hear them, but they may pull a lot of what they want to say out. And it may be less than 5 anyways, but maybe we can see if 3 minutes a person may work.
Thank you, Councillor Guerin. I'm sure that'll work. I agree with you. Most of the concerns are going to be the same. So, but if it comes down to more than 3 minutes and they have something else to add, we'll allow them to go on to 5 minutes. Okay, good.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to add, normally the procedural bylaw provides for 5 minutes for one person and then 10 minutes either for a group or two persons. So certainly if the wish of council is to limit to 3 minutes on the Bagot Street items, if it's council's wish, I would include that as part of the motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
What's the pleasure of council? Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. And further to what I meant to say earlier was, can maybe us as council discuss at the end of all the delegates? Can we hear them all first and then speak to it once?
I agree 100% with that. Is there any concern with that through council here tonight? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I put off the motion on the conservation authorities too? We can discuss it perhaps at the roundtable because the province has already moved forward. And also we have some delegations waiting in the room trying to get in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I agree with you, Councillor Guerin. We'll allow 3 minutes. And if they have to go to 5 minutes, we'll allow. Okay? Okay, so we'll,
So we need a motion for that.
yeah, we do need a motion for that, please.
Adopt as amended.
As amended. Councillor Guerin, and I need a seconder. Councillor Bowman. All in favor of the amendment? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 5.1, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held December 7th be adopted as circulated.
Need a mover, please, on this one, Deputy Mayor Malage and Councillor Bowman. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our first presentation this evening as 6.1 under the agenda is Mr. Graham Soley and Mr. Mitchell Johnson from Cogeco Connection, Inc. They're here to update council on the SWIFT initiative and the broadband internet Cogeco SWIFT project.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Go ahead, Graham.
We have a lot. So
Okay.
after these patients, we have a lot.
Hold on. We got to admit them first.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in the waiting room. So we're going to admit them as we go through. Okay. So do we just have to give them a minute to join in?
Yeah.
It looks like Mr. Soley and Mr. Johnson are in the meeting now.
Okay. Graham, are you there now?
I am here, Mr. Mayor, if you can hear me okay.
Yeah. Okay. You go ahead. You know, we have a huge delegation tonight. So go ahead.
All right, so I'll make sure I am swift. I want to thank you, and I use that word with the pun intended. My name is Graham Soley. I am the Director of Market Development for Cogeco Connection, and we're very happy to be here today to be able to talk a little more about the SWIFT, the recent SWIFT project win for Cogeco in the town of Essex and across Essex County. We'd like to first start by saying that on behalf of Cogeco, we wish nothing but health and safety for all of your residents and all members of council as we go through these unprecedented times. Obviously with the recent announcements that started today, with another shutdown across the province, we understand just how important broadband connectivity is and how it was important before and how it is going to be important moving forward. I'm going to share my screen right now. Oh, host is disabled. Do you want me to just talk about it, or can someone maybe allow me to share my screen?
No, you can share your screen. Go
I
ahead.
said the host. Oh, there we go now. Okay. Okay. So what I would like to do quickly is, as I know there's a lot of people on the agenda tonight, is kind of walk everyone through kind of high level the details of the SWIFT initiative, some of the project details, what exactly we're going to be doing in the town of Essex and the areas we're going to be targeting, the type of services that Cogeco will be enabling as part of this project, and a little bit about future funding programs, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the questions that could come up now and in the future are, what now? You've gone this far. There are still residents that are without connectivity. What's Cogeco planning? So we want to be able to table that as well. And a lot of this information, for if we have a lot of people who are joining via YouTube and are watching this from a resident level, is you can go onto the SWIFT website and you can find a lot of the information that I'm going to be sharing right now that will kind of give you the details and the maps specific to your area to see if you are or will not be included as part of this initial project launch. But what we can say is, obviously, from a project perspective, this phase 3 of the SWIFT program was targeting the remaining counties that we had for the SWIFT initiative, and obviously each area had a specific RFP with their own timelines and scoring systems. What we've really liked about the SWIFT project is they're very clear in the type of funding that's available, and more importantly, how much is required in a single bid. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. Chris, I know we talked earlier last year, Mr. Nepsey, in terms of what we wanted to do from a CRTC perspective that I'll talk about shortly. Their requirements were completely different, and they weren't specific on how much funding they were going to allow. So you had to kind of guess and do a lot of your own kind of internal strategizing to figure out what a successful project might look like from a CRTC perspective. But for SWIFT, it was very clear from the very beginning, and Cogeco could actually go in and be very targeted with exactly what we were going to do, knowing what money was available. And that was very important. Cogeco was one of 2 ISPs that was awarded funding for this program across the county, and we received just a little over $6 million to expand our broadband services into the town of Essex, the municipality of Leamington, and the town of Kingsville. So we were very happy with that. And again, it shows a lot of the work we've been doing, and these recent wins, along with other wins we've had through the SWIFT program, is Cogeco has really done a very good job understanding kind of the parameters from a SWIFT perspective and putting some very intriguing business cases together that have been allowing us to be very successful. So again, we're very happy and thrilled to be able to continue this work now in the town of Essex. Really, from a county perspective, overall, as part of this win, we're going to be connecting about 3,600 homes with a fiber to the home solution. So we're not talking fixed wireless in terms here. We're a fiber to the home solution, which will allow for symmetrical, up to symmetrical gigabit service. So 1 gigabit up, 1 gigabit down, truly on the same page as what you'd see in an urban center, which is really what we're trying to do, is closing that digital divide. We're looking to have this work completed by the end of 2022. And upon completion of the project in Essex County, our overall coverage from a Cogeco perspective, our footprint will go from 69% to 74% of homes. So it's a significant increase. It might not look at from a percentage perspective, but that's a significant number of homes for us to be able to grow, considering how spread out a lot of these homes are. You're not looking at it from an urban perspective, you're looking rural. So it's not easy to capture big large clumps of homes and hit a lot of density with a lot of these projects. This is coming right off the SWIFT website. And again, I encourage anyone who hasn't done it to go onto the SWIFT website. You can look at the map. This is basically just showing all the network in terms of what was current network, which you'll see in blue, and then in red, from a SWIFT perspective, what's been awarded. And it gives you an idea, and you can narrow down on that SWIFT website and put in your address, and it will take you right within that map to tell you if you're in an area that will be covered. So again, I encourage people that are listening today to be able to go on and do that. Within the town of Essex proper, which obviously is the most important thing to talk about today, is, there's a lot of communities that we're looking to target, and I've listed them here below, and I'm not going to go and name them all, but in total, 1,544 homes are going to be connected in the town of Essex, and it's going to increase the Cogeco coverage from 67% to 85%. So that's a significant increase in terms of our footprint across the county. And again, Our goal is we need to have this project completed. We're looking at September 30th, 2022 is the goal. That doesn't mean that we wait until the very end and then light it up. We could light up homes as we're moving through the project, but it must be completed by that September 30th date. I can tell you that we're on schedule with a lot of the work we're doing from a COVID-19 perspective. No, we are not running into issues in terms of how we're building and the work that we're doing. The only thing that would really delay us in any meaningful way would be if we needed permits and there was a delay in the permitting process. And obviously we have very good relationships with the town of Essex. And I know if there were any issues that came out, we'd be able to reach out, and I'm sure we'd be able to resolve those swiftly. Again, there's that word. But I'll say at this point, we're fully on board to make sure that we're completed by that September 30th date. This just gives you kind of an idea from a connection perspective. In blue is the Cogeco network, and then you'll see a lot of in the green, a lot of the roads in the areas that we're going to be covering. Obviously very targeted, and you'll see you're going down a lot of these lines that you see in yellow, and you'll see, you're building off a lot of these areas, and that's really where the density was for us to be able to put a business case together under the parameters that was of the money that was allotted from SWIFT, and with the money that Cogeco could put forward that made sense from a Cogeco perspective. And you'll see these are the areas that were targeted specifically. And again, you have this now on file, and again, if there's ever questions that come up from a council perspective, you can feel free to reach out to me directly, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Services, and this is what a lot of the questions that come up when we go into a new area is, we don't want to be paying an exorbitant amount of money for these services. And the chart really that's showing here is right off the Cogeco website. And again, I encourage people to go to the website and have a look. But really, there's three main packages that will be available once the fiber to the home is launched. All of them unlimited, from $98 on standard rate to 113. So you'll see you can go from 60 gigabits download speed to 1 gig download speed, and the jump really is only going from that 98 to that $113 price point. Again, that doesn't include promotions that would be available at the time, or bundle discounts that come if you have multiple services with Cogeco. This is just the rack rate pricing that will be available. And again, we will be, once we get closer to launch date, we will have ambassador teams out in the market, providing more information to customers in terms of what kind of packages are out there, what the promotions will look like, and making sure that everyone's very aware of what's available and what's the best package for them. Cogeco is really based on consultative selling. It's not just selling you things you don't need. We'll be asking a lot of questions, and we'll have ambassadors out there who will work with all the different residents to make sure they're on packages that make the most sense for their household, because not everyone needs to have 1 gig symmetrical speeds up and down, right? That's a very unique need right there. You might find a lot of people with even large families might be very happy in that 360 range. So again, these packages will be able to provide great service and speeds far superior to what obviously we were seeing before Cogeco was launching in the area. A big thing from a Cogeco perspective that this is going to allow us to do is, one, we require these types of government funding programs to be able to reach out to these rural areas, because it's very expensive for ISPs to be able to get to a lot of these areas, because it's just the cost to get the fiber with so few homes. It doesn't work from a business case perspective. And a lot of these funding programs are in place to entice these ISPs and work with Cogeco and other types of companies to be able to help fund that difference, to be able to try to increase coverage as much as possible, and obviously close that divide and connect more Canadians. There are many different programs that are out there right now. SWIFT is one that that we just won for the town of Essex, but we also had irons in with the CRTC that had bids for the area. ISED just launched in November with $6 billion over 10 years, and they have a rapid response program that they're looking for projects that are shovel ready that could be done by the end of November of 2021. So a really aggressive timeline. Cogeco is in the middle right now preparing bids that will kind of take advantage of some of those types of funding and some of those timelines from a rapid response. It's an open RFP, so I can't speak specifically to it other than Cogeco is aggressive across the board with all funding programs to find opportunities to continue to expand the network. I can say within this current SWIFT win for the town of Essex, what this is going to allow Cogeco to do is, with our own capital yearly expenditure, we can look now for opportunities to expand with our own with our own funding. The only issue that you'll run in with that is now you're looking at all our, it's competing against CapEx that we have across the entire province. And obviously there's lots of areas that we cover, lots of opportunities to edge out your network. And obviously we can't do it all at once. So it's a matter of being creative to find where are the best places, where is there enough density that it makes sense from a business case perspective, where we can hit enough homes that it makes sense, and we can do it ourselves. Or do you look at these additional funding programs to say there's opportunities here to build off other areas that we've expanded to and then be able to continue to grow from there? So I'm part of a network expansion team at Cogeco, and Mitchell Johnson joined me today, but we are dedicated to exactly this. Our goal is to work closely with the municipalities to develop relationships that put us in a good position to understand the connectivity gaps that are there, to gain letters of support that are required in a lot of these different funding programs, to make sure that we can present an intriguing business case for the funding programs to hopefully select our proposals. And I'm happy to say that from a partnership perspective, working with Chris Nepsey and a lot of the other council members from the town of Essex, we've had support letters that are required right from the get-go that allowed us to put some very strong business cases in front of the CRTC, which we haven't heard back from yet, and allowed us to put programs in front of ISED, and as well as ICON, which is the provincial program that's out right now. We had irons in for the town of Essex across all three programs, and I'm happy to say one of them struck, which was SWIFT, which was the first one. So again, we couldn't do that without the relationships and the support that we've had from the town of Essex. And that's really where we are from a Cogeco perspective. Again, September 2022 is when the SWIFT project will be built. There are other funding programs that we're going to continue to look at, and we're very excited and thrilled to be able to expand in the town of Essex. And with that, I'll open up to questions.
Thank you, Graham. It is very exciting. We've been waiting a long time for this to happen. Just one question before I go to council. There was rumors and talk about extra money coming down from the senior level of government, from the federal government. Can you give us any take on that?
Well, there was some additional funding that was given down through the ISED program that we know is there. We also understand there's going to be some additional money coming from a provincial level. We're not sure how they will allocate that. I know a lot of that was put towards the ICON program. We continue to lobby and work to make sure that we know where the different types of funding is going to be available and see how we qualify to be able to put business cases forward that make the most sense to be able to try to win some of that money. We don't have particulars if there's anything additional on top of the provincial and that ISED funding that we know was recently increased. But as soon as we find out information, we're always very quick to share it at a municipal level, and you'd be one of the first to hear about it if we do get more information.
Thank you, Graham. I'm going to open it up to council. Any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Melange, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Stoley. Thank you for the presentation this evening. It's I've known your maps very well. I've been looking at them and helping residents try and figure out whether they've been covered. Yeah. And I believe that most of our council probably has been doing the same thing. One of the questions I have is you've got the one map that I hadn't seen before within the town of Essex. Yes. Kind of out green areas that are covered. I do notice that, and I'm one of those people that just missed being online here. Councillor, another one. Yeah. So I explained to people, hey, you know what? Don't get mad at Essex Council because we had nothing to do with this. But I tried to explain why certain things happen. But one of the questions I had was, I noticed that you have a line that goes the Amherstburg Essex Trail, part of the Chrysler Greenway. Okay. You've got a line that looks like goes from Essex Center to McGregor, and there's nothing that was developed on the north side of that line, even though you have a whole line that goes from Essex to McGregor. Did that have something to do with how you determined where you were going to go on this map?
What I'll defer to Mitchell, who I brought with me, who can answer that for you, Deputy Mayor Melange. But what I will say is, high level, probably if we didn't hit those homes, it was because it didn't work within the business case and the funding that was available, and it could have been just the build itself that was an issue. Mitchell if you're there, if you can maybe unmute, and if you know particularly why we might have not targeted that, other than just it didn't work within the finances of the project.
Yeah, it likely would have just been a matter of trying to come up with a defined scope of work for the program. With Swift, there's a maximum amount that you can request in a single bid, as well as a maximum percentage of funding that you're allowed to request. So when you're working within, I believe it was 4 million per bid and up to 67% of costs, you basically start with wherever there's as much density as possible, and then start expanding out as much as you can until you reach a point where the business case, kind of reaches its limit. And then you look at any other potential opportunities, make any adjustments, and then package that together as your submission. So that's how we ended up with the current target map as it is today.
Okay. Neighbors were wondering, because we are a pretty dense area, we're on County Road 15, but we were wondering if because that line couldn't be cut or something like that, we were trying to make sense of why that was the location that it stopped. But that's good. It helped me explain better to some of the residents in the area that
What we'll
maybe
do is
next.
That's true. And we'll find out maybe if there's anything specifically that was technologically related to that build that maybe prevent us from doing that if it was outside of funding. But what I can say is we're close now. So that allows us, as we're looking at other
Absolutely.
opportunities, especially if there's density, to be able to edge out from there or take advantage of other programs if they allow us to do something. So
I'll be outside walking and waving them down the road.
You should. And Cogeco has a very keen eye on the town. So again, we'll be always looking for opportunities to continue to grow.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you again.
Anybody else from council? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if my question would be for Mitchell or a member of our administration. People are very excited, and and then also the ones on the outskirts are very disappointed, of course, right? But we're all continuing to root for them. On that screen that you showed a list of all of the beach roads. If there's a beach road in the middle there, can we just assume that beach road is covered as well? Like, I got a question that Argyle isn't listed, but the ones on either side of me are Seymour and Lips. So can we assume the ones in the middle are all listed too?
Yeah, if it's between those two, that should be included.
Okay.
It could just be that when we were listing communities, that one didn't appear on Google Earth.
Okay, perfect.
So the ones that are actually listed are the ones that if you go on Google Earth, you can actually see the name appear. So that could be why it wasn't on the list. But if it lies right between the two, I will verify on my maps, but that should definitely be covered.
Okay, perfect. A second question is, high-speed internet came through Harrow, high-speed fiber, I believe, some parts of my ward, but it's not hooked up yet. I believe those are Cogeco lines. I don't know if Mitchell would know the answer to that one. Like, when are those getting turned on?
So a fiber line came through the town?
Through some parts of my ward, Sunset Gardens.
Oh,
Yeah.
The Sunset Drive development?
Yes.
I can look into that. My understanding is that had already been turned on, and that
Okay.
those were now serviceable.
Okay. And also, I believe you said that we could have your contact information. I would love to get your contact information so I can have residents contact you directly with further questions, because I'm sure I'm going to get some. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. And maybe what I'll say from a question perspective, obviously we're a team of 5, busy working on a lot of RFPs. So answering individual questions could be difficult. If you were to kind of summarize a bunch of the questions, send them to us as a group, we have no problem kind of chopping them off. We can send them right back directly to you. Chris and Nelson both have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to myself or Mitchell, and we'd be happy to answer questions we can as we move through.
Thank you, Graham. Anybody else from council? Councillor Van Andel, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Soley, Mr. Johnson, thanks very much for the presentation. There'll be a lot of people hanging on your every word tonight.
I'm sure.
Now, this isn't about your company, but it's part of the territory. There are some people in McGregor whose streets are shown as being serviced, but Swift hasn't approved them as part of this program. And I am supposing that this means that they're part of that Bell build that's in Amherstburg. Does that actually come across Walker Road into McGregor on a few streets?
Mitchell, would you know? I don't know if we know particularly exactly where the Bell build out is, but if it is close to that Amherstburg build out, it's possible Swift would have seen that and said they weren't eligible because there is going to be build out there and they will qualify already.
Yeah, I'm not.
Because it's just little bumps on these. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm not aware of Bell's particulars, aside from what they've agreed to do within Amherstburg itself. There is, as much as the mapping has improved significantly, there are sometimes gaps in terms of the data available to ISED and the CRTC with regards to availability. So with that, Swift as well. So if generally though Swift gathers its information from ISPs to indicate what's available or will be available to them. So it is possible that another ISP contacted them and made them aware of work that was planned to be done. And then Swift in turn excluded it, since there's no need to necessarily fund a program in that area if it's going to be served independently on its own in the next few years.
Thank you. Another question. I just wanted assurances that it appears as though when you're done this build and this contract series, there's a strong possibility there will be other funding that may be approved and you will be able to expand further in town, correct?
So there's two things. There's expansion that we will look to leverage other government funding programs. And then there's what we call extension. And extension is internal, our own capital that Cogeco looks at across the province and looks for opportunities to grow. We will look at both those options moving forward. We are in discussions with some municipalities where, from a business case perspective, getting to a certain area just doesn't make financial sense. And we're in discussions now to say, well, what is that gap? And we found that some areas are willing to say, well, they might be able to contribute a small portion to make it work. There are so many different discussions that go on once you have fiber in the ground. And I think we need to be excited that we're getting that fiber farther, which allows it's open access, which means other providers can piggyback off those lines, and you'll have more fixed wireless companies possibly with a stronger signal getting closer to people that had maybe a greater distance to get to them before. There'll be our own capital expenditures that we will look at. Again, it's in priority across the province. So I can't guarantee that right away we start looking at Essex again, because again, we've just had a big win in Swift, and our focus right now is in the next 2 years is to get that build by September 22. You have the ISED program, you have the CRTC that has yet to make a decision on their very first program. It was a 5-year plan. We submitted our RFPs in June and still have not heard back. So we assume that they'll come out with a year 2 funding, and maybe their rules are different, which allow you then so each iteration of broadband funding that comes out will allow Cogeco to look at every opportunity. We've mapped out the entire province. Mitchell knows our network inside and out, where we are, where the competitors are, and we make those decisions based on what we think will put us in the best position to obtain funding. And again, we have a very good understanding of the network in Essex, so it allows us to really put creative business cases together to make things work. So we will continue.
That's excellent. There's a lot of underground service locates going on in the town. Is that the start of your work?
Mitchell, have we started there?
I'm not sure if we would have done locates already, because this was a pretty recent announcement.
Yeah.
It's possible that that we were already underway, but I imagine it wouldn't be a lot as of yet. So some of it could be ours, but I imagine probably not all of it.
Yeah, it's fairly quick. I think a lot of it now is validating the designs that we put together that went into the project. A lot of this, you'll put a project together and you'll do a design. You think it's finished, and then they come back and say, here you go. Now we go back and we review it again, and now we're actually going through the due diligence. I would think it's probably not Cogeco, if I had to hazard a guess, that we're getting prepared, and you'll probably start seeing a lot of that work in terms of locates and building in the spring, I would say, before we started digging now.
Okay, so my final questions were, when do you plan to start work? And when is that launch date that you mentioned? I know everyone won't have it on launch date, but when does launch date start?
So September 22nd, September 2022 is when we have to have the program completed. So it's got to be built. At this point, we don't have necessarily a specific cadence of how that launch will go. As we get closer into the project, we will be in close communications. Our community relations team will be out. You'll start seeing a lot of communication in terms of, hey, we're coming. Here's the dates as we light up specific areas. There'll be promotions that are launched. But that again, I would say we're probably at least a year out, if not a little more, before we start getting to that point where we say, okay, we're now X amount of time away from launch, and here's what people need to do to prepare, and here's the packages that are available. So I think right now what you're looking at is getting the design finalized. It's getting permits and it's getting all that ready so that when we're ready to start building, we can just plow through and we can move forward and be able to hit that date.
Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for the questions.
Anybody else from the council? Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Like I say, we have been waiting a long time for this, and it's great news. So
No, well, thank you. We're very excited. We look forward to working closely with the town as we move forward on this progress with the project and others as we continue to move through the town and the county.
thank you very much. gentlemen.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Yep,
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I'll need a motion to accept the presentation, please, from council. Councillor Van den Dolen and Councillor Bowman, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6.2 on this evening's agenda is a presentation or delegation from Kathy Baudouin here on behalf of the Essex Food Basket with the request of council to use the Scout Hall on McCaffey Street during the pandemic to store non-perishable goods.
Thank you, Kathy, if you're there.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak to council tonight. For those who don't know me, I'm Kathy Baudouin. Together with Councillor Bondi, we have been hosting drive-through events in Harrow, McGregor, and Essex for the last 2.5 months. We have hosted 4 events. We have fed over 1,500 people. And I still get daily calls, emails, people needing food, emergency food right away. We've also been collecting coats, and we have distributed over 200 coats and winter gear to people. Because of the great need during this pandemic, I need easy access to emergency food. Doug Sweet has graciously allowed us to keep this stock in the Scout Hall. And I understand it's not being used during this pandemic. I spoke with Doug last week, and we discussed the continued use of the Scout Hall for the stock. And he doesn't have a problem with it, but for transparency's sake, I wanted to formally ask council for their continued support in letting me use the Scout Hall for the extra stock that I have. I plan on doing these giveaways once a month, and for the winter months, I'm going to rotate between, my plan is to rotate between Harrow and Essex, not McGregor, because it just had easier, it was just more accessible at the arenas for the parking and the drive-through event. I will, of course, need continued support from donations from people and from the Unemployed Help Center that supplies the miracle food. Without them, I couldn't do this. So that's about it. I just officially wanted, I also would like to thank Councillors Verbeek and Guerin and Bowman for coming to help fill up the cars during the events in their wards. And of course, for my continued invaluable partnership with Sherry Bondi, without whom I wouldn't be able to get the word out to so many people in the area and get so many people fed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Personally speaking, if we're not using the Scout Hall, I have no problem whatsoever in allowing you to use it. But I'll open it up for discussion from council. Council, what's your desire on this one? Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Kathy, thank you very much for coming forward tonight, and thanks for everything you've been doing. And I know Councillor Bonnie's been a big help to you as well. Yeah, if administration's Doug has no issue with it, then I don't have an issue supporting it, and I'll make such motion at such time.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else from council? Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to second Councilor Guerin's motion and thank Kathy for all her efforts.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open up for any further discussion. We have a mover and a seconder. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of letting Kathy use it? It's carried. Thank you, Kathy, for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everyone.
You too.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
I think I need a motion for her presentation too.
I took it as receive and
Okay, good.
support.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6.3 on this evening's presentations is Zachary Bastian and Hans Kogel. And they're here on behalf of Essex Nonprofit Homes, Inc. Here to speak on the renewal and repair project and request for support of council.
Okay, Zachary, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, because of all the
Trying to turn on the
delegations.
video.
Pardon me?
I was just
Yeah.
trying to start the video.
Okay,
Yeah,
now,
I have Hans Kogel and myself.
okay, now you heard at the beginning of the meeting, like we have a huge amount of delegations tonight. So we're going to leave it to 5 minutes for each person. Okay? Go ahead.
Yes, that's fine. That's perfect. Shall we start the presentation or will
Go
you
ahead.
guys be showing the presentation?
To you, Mr.
Perfect.
Mayor. I'll
Hans,
share.
I'll let you take the lead.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship, to council. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. Herco Inc. is a consulting firm working in the social and affordable housing space, and we've been assisting Essex nonprofits since around 2015 with various assignments. This presentation is regarding the sustainability of this organization within the town of Essex. Next slide, please. So our asks of council are on page 3. Then we have page 4 and 5 is the Essex Nonprofit Homes background. And then page 6 to 9 is the work that's been done to date. And then pages 12 through 19 are various appendices that we can certainly speak on if there's any questions. Next page, please. So in terms of the ask for council with respect to this project, one is a letter of support for Essex Nonprofit and Essex Nonprofit's renewal and repair project. The second is financial support for Essex Nonprofit's renewal and repair project, either in the form of tax waivers of taxes and or capital contribution of up to 2.5 million is what we need. And that is in the year of 23-24 or 170,000 for 40 years. Lastly, we're asking for a letter to the County of Essex conveying the town's support of Essex Nonprofit Homes and requesting the county to provide financial support for Essex Nonprofit Homes renewal and repair project. Next slide, please. So Essex Nonprofit Homes is an organization, affordable housing community that was built in the 70s. It's 123 to 5 bedroom single family affordable rental units. It houses around 345 people, and 40 of these homes are under the rent subsidy program provided through Windsor Essex Community Housing. CMHC estimates that Essex Nonprofit accounts for approximately 40% of the rental universe within the town of Essex. And this Essex Nonprofit represents the largest nonprofit housing organization within the town of Essex. Next slide, please. So the issue is that there are significant capital repairs backlogs. We're talking about the sustainability of this organization here. And those were determined and assessed in a report that is available should you wish to see it or review it, that was done earlier this year. There's a lack of capital funding. There are no reserves. And 10 of these homes were demolished in 2014 due to the foundation issues and general conditions of the homes. Essex Nonprofit themselves has invested over $500,000 in capital to restore the foundations of 15 homes from 2016 to 2019. And that was done with some lending that they took out loans, as well as a little bit of surplus that was available at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So in terms of work,
the work to
yeah, go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
so the work to date, so we have captured $75,000 of CMHC seed funding. With that, we did detailed targeted building condition assessments and energy audits, and we completed a portion of the design work required for the project. So we continue to work with CMHC. We're looking for a second round of seed funding with a $150,000 grant component. And then the big piece is the co-investment funding, which requires about $1.5 to $2.5 million in external funding in the years 2023-24 timeframe, or an annual contribution for the 40 years. And then we also require letter of support from various partners, such as municipalities, such as Essex. Next slide. We have also been working with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and we're currently pursuing a project grant of $500,000 covering 80% of initial project costs. And this will be to address critical work at 4 to 5 homes. And then afterwards, we can also pursue full project funding through FCM if CMHC does not work out. Next slide. So our overall plan is to stabilize the existing housing stock, reduce energy usage by 51%, greenhouse gas emissions by 76%, and just improve the residents' living environment, and then also reducing their utility bills by 14%, and increasing the accessibility of the homes. Some of these requirements are kind of spurred by the requirements from CMHC. And in some areas, we have overachieved based on the designs we completed to date. You can see a high-level budget of the work we're doing: foundation restoration, roof replacements, building envelope restoration, such as windows and doors, and EIFS cladding of the buildings, HVAC replacement, accessibility work, and then there's some consulting costs, such as the quantity surveyor. And we have about a 15% contingency and escalation factors built in, because it is a 4-year project. Next slide. So as part of the plan, we have increased the rents to help improve the financial sustainability of Essex nonprofit homes, and this has been approved by the board. And it is still within CMHC affordability requirements. We are currently exploring co-investment opportunities, such as with yourselves, the town of Essex, and we have already spoken with the city of Windsor. Again, we do require external capital. It is a requirement for the program, whether it's CMHC or an FCM application. And we're looking to start construction work in June 2021. Next slide. So that's all we have today. We do have additional slides that is available for review as part of your packages, so we can talk about those if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Councilor Guerin, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the delegates. So my family is one of the few original residents that back in 1976 moved in at 134 Michaels. So I'm very familiar with the area. It was a great area to be raised, and it was we loved that neighborhood. We moved about 7 years ago, my family, from there. Once I believe the changeover from the cooperative housing to, I believe, your organization. So I'm quite familiar with what the old model was. I'm trying to understand what the existing model is. So I have a couple questions, and hopefully you can help me better understand. So you do have 40 rents there that are subsidized, but you're not considered part of the cooperative housing anymore, correct? And you're not considered affordable housing, is that correct?
So I can answer that one. Through your worship, Councilor Guerin, we are considered affordable, or I should say Essex Nonprofit is considered affordable housing and part of the affordable housing sector. Absolutely. They are a nonprofit housing organization. They do have 40 rent supplements from the city of Windsor. So in terms of rent supplement, they would be offering those particular tenants would be in the sort of rent geared to income category. Then the balance of the tenants there or residents there would be in the affordable housing space. And CMHC has a requirement over the entire organization that they will, you need to maintain a certain rent profile in total. Otherwise, you won't fit their program in terms of funding, if you will. And that happens to be the max is 80% of median market rent. So they do their own studies of every area, and that's their requirement. So if we have to be maximum, the aggregate rent or consolidated rent needs to be less than or equal to 80% of median market rent.
Okay, so further to that then, so affordable housing in the sense that, yes, those homes there, 3-bedroom, 50-foot lots, for the prices you rent them out for is affordable. I don't think it falls as under affordable and under the town of Essex, but it is affordable in that sense. But as far as the nonprofit like the nonprofit title of the company that owns the housing, what does that really mean, nonprofit?
So in nonprofit housing, I mean, there's, it's a whole community of housing organizations across province and across Canada. And essentially what it means is that they cannot earn a profit according to the CRA. So they're registered nonprofit organization. It's a type of registered corporation, if you will.
Okay, so the old model would have the renter or the person living in the home, if a roof came up or a driveway issue came up, they would go to a board and the board would request to the board to have them certain things replaced. Is that still how it works?
Yeah, so if there are items that need to be addressed on the property, the resident or tenant can talk to the manager that's on site. They have one of the houses. They have an office in one of the houses on Queen there, and they can make a request to have certain work done. Absolutely.
Okay, and my last question through you, Mr. Mayor. You have the 10 properties that had to be demolished and now they're sitting vacant. I know under the past ownership, being cooperative, they couldn't sell the homes and they couldn't sell the properties. Are those properties, do you have an appetite to sell them, or are they able to be sold to help you generate some of the money that you're looking for? And, or if they are able to be sold, what would your vision be for those properties? Because there is, 10 properties, they're close to $1 million perhaps they're in value. I'm just trying to get a sense from you as to what the plan is with those properties. Can they be sold? Would you consider selling them? What's the long-term or short-term goals with them? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question and thank you. I certainly can't speak for the board of directors, but we have had some discussions about those properties, and the sort of initial position is that because of the dire need of affordable housing within our community, they have their ultimate goal is to redevelop those for affordable housing. And just like the CMHC has renewal and repair funding program, they also have a sort of a sister program, if you will, that's for new construction. And so they're hoping to acquire the funds to be able to do that in the future. But first, they need to sort of sustain the existing housing, and they're planning to, the objective is to do that through accessing the funds under the renewal and repair program of CMHC.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else from council? Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think at this point, we just received the presentation, and maybe during our budget night where we have those 4 items, we just we discuss it. It's a lot of information to take in and digest, right? Affordable housing is certainly something that we want to support. In what capacity can we support it? I'm not sure. Definitely writing any letter of support is an easy task, but anything else I think is going to need a fresh night, if I can say that.
Thank you,
We
Councillor.
understand that.
Councillor Bjorkman, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you to the gentleman, your presentation, thank you very much for coming to see us. We do need this housing in our town. We need this housing in our county. Unfortunately, we're going through our budget. Our budget's done for next year. And I agree with Councillor Bondi. We're not prepared to move forward with cash, but we certainly should send the letters of support that we agree with what you're doing, and we agree with the need for this. So I would move that we accept the report and that we direct administration to write the letters of support on to the 2 organizations they want us to do.
Through your worship, Councillor Bjorkman, thank you very much. That is very helpful. We certainly, understand, as Councillor Bondi indicated, that this requires, further discussion in the future. But certainly, letters of support, as soon as possible, would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bondi, are you okay with the Councillor Bjorkman? Okay, great. Councillor Van Dolen, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Kogel, I think. Thanks very much for the informative presentation. We certainly do need the housing. But I have to ask, I was following the trials and tribulations of the previous organization when they went into trouble and those houses were boarded up and uninhabitable before they were torn down. And I know they were on the market, and the previous board was essentially removed against their will. And the entire development was on the market to be sold. Now, how did it get from that liquidation state to you owning it? What happened? I've tried researching this and I tried asking people and nobody seems to know, which is why I'm asking you directly rather than, I actually did try to look this up and I couldn't find it.
Right. I don't have the full picture of the history prior to it forming Essex Nonprofit. I've heard little bits and pieces as well. Herco wasn't initially retained by Essex Nonprofit until this whole transition had happened. So I'm not entirely familiar with exactly what happened when it transitioned over from a co-op to a nonprofit. But as a nonprofit entity, it is a legitimate business enterprise in terms of affordable housing. I'm sorry, I apologize. I can get those answers, but I don't have those answers at my fingertips at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kogel. Perhaps our administration should address in its report the problems of the previous organization, which were really severe, and how we can possibly avoid that in the future, because that previous housing thing was a complete financial disaster. I mean, people talk about it in the housing industry, nonprofit industry, and as like the worst ever. And I think we need to have a little bit of background so that we can avoid this in the future, because we don't want to repeat the mistakes of previous councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Who is next? Okay, Councillor Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can shed a little bit of light. So when it was a cooperative, they basically ran out of money. There was a 50-year mortgage, and there was so much repair needed on a lot of the homes with respect to foundation work, etc., that the cooperative was basically running out of money. All the people that were living in there, not all of them, but there's a good 40 plus that individual residents took it upon themselves to try to go outside of the cooperative and buy the homes. And it went before courts, and the courts wouldn't allow that because of the setup with the cooperative housing. So it came to an end, and then the whole piece had to be sold in one shot. And I'm pretty sure that's where we are today. And that's why my family and a lot of other families made the decision at that time to move, because the rent, we'll call it, monthly rent went up quite a bit, because it went from a cooperative to more of a nonprofit. So that's a little bit of the history.
Thank you, Counselor.
If I can add, so yeah, so it was sold, I believe it was like in receivership under MNP, and it was sold, I believe, to like a new body or new company, which is what we know as Essex Nonprofit Homes. But essentially it was kind of saved by CHF Canada, so Cooperative Homes Housing for Canada. So they saw this as an opportunity that they needed to step in to preserve the housing stock for affordable housing. And and I think there might have been one name before, and then it changed to Essex Nonprofit Homes, and since then is known as that. In terms of the rent profiles, like Essex Nonprofit Homes, they do a study every year to compare their rent to the market. And on average, they're about $500 to $625 below the average.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else from council? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Definitely something that's needed, and as mentioned by several councillors, I certainly would like to look at it as well. Is there anything else that perhaps, and maybe we should have administration look at this too. Maybe there's other methods that we could help bring the costs down, or you were talking about different tax reliefs rather than a full out handing over of cash. But this is definitely a grant issue that you're looking at. You're not looking for a loan of any kind. It's a grant issue that you're looking for, correct?
Yeah, through your worship to
Correct.
Mayor Malash, that is correct. Although, just to give you a real quick explanation how tax relief can help, because what tax relief will do is open up their budget for the corresponding amount to finance a portion of the project. So if you're not, it's basically taking tax money that Essex Nonprofit would pay in taxes and take that and put it towards a mortgage. They will have a mortgage anyway, but this could be a little bit larger mortgage for which they could fund that amount. So that's how tax relief works with respect to this particular initiative. It would need to be in place for the duration of the mortgage, which is, in this case, they'd be looking at it 40 years.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? I think Councillor Bondi, what she brought direction, didn't you? That letter of support, or what was it? Go ahead.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, that we have our administration draft the requested letters of support, and that council have a further discussion about any financial terms of reference in the new year.
Yeah, and I think the seconder was Councillor Bjorkman, if I'm correct. Yes. All in favor of that? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I need a motion.
That's okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6.4 under presentations, we have Ms. Jill Kennedy here. And Ms. Kennedy's here to speak in regards to Drainage Report 2020-14. And this report relates to the results of request for tender for the construction of Crystal Beach Drain. Ms. Kennedy submitted a letter of appeal in relation to this matter. And then I believe for the report after the delegation, I believe Mr. Gerald Rood is also available. Mr. Rood is the appointed engineer on this project.
Okay, thank you. I think the biggest thing here, council, was the cost of it. But anyways, I think after we listen to Jill, I think maybe we could have Kevin fill in on this too. Okay, go ahead, Jill. Are you there, Jill?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, go ahead.
My husband just has a few points to talk about.
Good evening, Council. I just want to express an opinion. I had a couple questions too. I've been a resident on the street for about 13 years. I'm on the top side of the elevation on the road. I've witnessed many severe storms, heavy saturations in the area. We've never had standing water in our top side of the road. It has quite the slope on our road, and it also slopes towards the Bondi drain, which are both the improvements that were supposed to be done. I just have a concern because the quote is 133% over the initial quote. And there was discussions of possibly doing half of the job down at the beach where the actual problem is. There's pooled up water near the beach. It is not draining out. There's a broken pipe at the beach, which is not allowing the water to exit the street and into the lake. So I'm not trying to stop progress. I'm just concerned that the plan isn't going to work. I just had a couple questions about the baffle system going in, because being a resident, I've noticed that when we get an onshore wind, water will bubble up the catch basins. The lake levels are higher than the catch basin lid heights. And I'm just concerned that a baffle won't stop this. And I just wanted to hear from Gerald about that. Is it guaranteed, the baffle? And if it fails, what would be the next step? Are we just out of luck after the hefty payment?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is Gerard there? Okay, go ahead. You can answer it.
You're still on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The design is set up to follow the original design of the drainage works that are there. And the baffle is going to create the opportunity for waves to be broken up like we've done on about 5 or 6 other projects all along the Lake Erie shoreline. So that'll help minimize the risk of standing water. With the baffle keeping the end of the pipe open and flows being allowed out of the drainage system at all times, that will greatly minimize any risk of ponding. There may be a slight risk during a very severe windstorm with the water levels rising to the point where it could be near the top of the catch basins, but the ground elevation is typically higher than what the lake levels are, so that the water will be able to be released through that pipe with the baffle protecting the outlet from being obstructed by sand, ice, and snow.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to ask you a couple of questions real quickly. We did camera that whole drain, didn't we? Gerard, we cameraed that whole drain, didn't we?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the municipal staff tried to do camera work on a large portion of the drainage works, but the poor condition of it resulted in obstructions, and we were not able to analyze the whole system or view the whole system by camera work. So that problem basically flagged that the drain is in very poor repair, and the age of it being over 40 years old, for a lot of it being corrugated steel pipe when it was installed, would be rotted out and would be causing those problems.
Yes, and that's the point I was trying to get across. I had many calls on this issue here from residents down there. I didn't realize that we did camera it and the whole drain is in poor condition, but I'm sure the residents there were aware of this. But to just put a Band-Aid on something, I realize what they're saying on the cost, but just to, I think if we just repair the end of it at the south end of that drain, I think we're going to run into the same problem in the very, very near future. But who else would like to speak on the issue? Kevin did, who was it? No, Norm. Is Norm in? Norm Nuzio. Can you speak on this? Norm, are you there?
Yep, sorry, I was just getting my computer set up.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think you kind of touched on a lot of the points there in terms of the condition of the pipe. One of the biggest concerns with doing only a portion of the project was the financial end of it also. Sure, the drainage department could make spot repairs along this drain, you know, for the next 2 to 3, 5 to 10 years, and at some point this system will be completely inoperable. One of the biggest pushes, I guess, would be the debenture option through this construction process that we don't have within our maintenance policy. So with this, there's a 5 and 10 year debenture offered through the construction process that wouldn't be offered if we had to provide maintenance in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Norm. Any questions from council on this one, please? Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I talked with a few of the residents, saw the correspondence, and I have to feel for where they are right now. So my question to Mr. Rood or Mr. Nuzio, the lower end of the drain, if it's completely repaired, and we do that halfway up the road, and then we commit to the next 5 or 10 years, we do the rest of it. Now, I understand it's probably going to cost a little more then, but we're talking about some people, and what they're telling me is the same thing as at home. I've got a few repairs that I want to do, but we've all taken a hit in our income. We've all taken a hit in a number of ways this year, and we can't do the whole project. There's stuff that I want to do, but I can't get it all done. And I have to choose the part that is the most important, and then the part that isn't hurting me, but needs to be done, I'm going to take care of sometime in the future. And that's what they're asking right now. Is there an opportunity, and does it hurt the job if we only do the lower pipe and the catch basins to a point in the road where we say, okay, we're going to do this half, and it's going to cost you this much. And it really does make a difference of $100 to $200 a month for some of these people. And that does change things. So is there an opportunity for us to do this in 2 sections, 5 years apart, and give them an opportunity to get out of this whole COVID spin that we're in, hopefully 2 years from now. And I understand the job won't be done until the end of 2022, and they may not even be paying it on their debenture taxes till 2023. We hear that, but that would also mean they wouldn't have to pay until maybe 2028 on the second half. So I would just like some information on that. That's a question we've been asked, and I think they should know if that's an option for them. So I don't know who could answer that, but thank you.
Who could answer that? I believe Kevin can answer that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to jump in and answer Councillor Bjorkman's question and also maybe provide a little bit of context here. That option was presented to the Drainage Board and to the assessed residents of, because they had approached the town about completing just the southern portion or just the outlet of this drain. It's not recommended by the town administration to do this in pieces for a number of reasons. One you touched on being the cost of doing construction at a later date. In addition, there'd be additional cost for engineering. If we just constructed the outlet and assessed those residents just the outlet, we could be in a position where we're offering debentures to residents for whether it be 5 or 10 years, and then having to come back in a short time frame and then having to add additional debentures on top of those debentures, where they could be paying, up to a maximum of 20 years worth of debentures to the town. As Gerard mentioned, the entire drain was cameraed. It's in very poor condition. It's putting a lot of the residents there at risk of flooding. Although some residents may not be experiencing flooding now, it's imminent. It's a drain that's in very poor condition. As Gerard mentioned, we tried to push a camera through the drain where we hit collapsed areas of the drain with no bottom, connections that are no longer connected to it. It's a very poor condition drain. Of course, high lake levels are contributing to some of the issues here, but with wave action, with the material being CSP, steel corrugated pipe, it's corroding rapidly. If I can add one more point too, is that we could be put in a position, if we delay some of this work, where the town has to force the work on maintenance because of its condition. So right now, this is being done as a construction project where everybody is being assessed their apportionment per Gerard's engineering report, which has been adopted by the Drainage Board. And what that could lead to is having issues with the town having to force maintenance on this because it's in such poor condition, where those debenture options may not be as available as they are in the construction project. Plus the increased costs that could happen down the road as well. So I did want to just kind of bring that to your attention because it is something that's, we understand the frustration with COVID, and we understand that this is a very tough time for our residents, but putting the stress of COVID along with flooding of the road and residences is not something that, administration feels is good practice, right? We need to fix the drain, the problem that's been created, and because of an old drain, and that's the right thing to do. I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions? Norm, you had something to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add to Kevin's points there. With considering a potential of looking at only a part of the project, the Drainage Board did move forward through these processes and put this report in a position that needs to be constructed as its entirety. That being said, if we were to consider only doing the outlet portion of this drain, we would actually have to start this process over to reconsider this report and its design. The way the report's set up right now is it is to be constructed as the entire drain. So that means, another 6-7 months down the road, and there is quite a few residents down there that are experiencing flooding on a daily basis right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Norm. Councillor Van Noen, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, I agree with our staff people that I think we need to bite the bullet and fix this and push forward and do it all at once. I know there are people who are pressured financially this year or just generally and can't face it. But if we don't do it, we're going to be putting existing property owners and property values at risk. And this is something that's been going on for decades. I've seen the standing water down there. It's unacceptable. It's no way to live. We shouldn't. I mean, how can we even charge taxes for a house you have to wade through you have to wade down the street to get to your house? We need to fix this. And as for splitting it into two, I don't know if people are following the financial world, but it looks like inflation could be coming back to roar. There's no guarantee that we'll be able to afford to do the second half. And when you split a project like this in half, there's no guarantee that it's going to work. And you're going to have two contractors blaming each other for not having done their half right. And we'll be caught in the middle. So it's almost as though the project is doomed from the start if we don't do it all together, so that we have some guarantee from the people doing the work. Not to mention all the extra engineering costs and the process costs. We have to do this. We've been talking, but for half a century, this town has been arguing about how we fix all these longstanding problems, these historic road problems on the beach roads. And you know, it's too bad that it's going to cost money, but you know, you got to fix the basement or the house falls down. We need to do this. You know, I'm very sorry that it's going to hurt some people, but you know, they should also understand that a quarter of the cost is going to be borne by other taxpayers in the rest of town that won't be enjoying any of this. So, you know, we are sharing in this, and it can be paid on taxes too. So I think we should go ahead and do the whole thing at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else from council? Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, go ahead.
can I
Go
just say
ahead,
something?
Deputy
One
Mayor.
one other thing too in this whole picture, that we know that interest rates are going to increase. I don't think that was mentioned, but we're at a very low cost with interest right now, record lows with Bank of Canada, and we can secure loans for these people at an incredibly low rate. That makes a huge difference. But if we wait until 28, I'm afraid that with everything that's going on and with how much debt the governments are running into right now, that you're going to see very high interest rates by the time we get out a few years, 5 years, 6 years from now. But again, that's maybe a different consideration, but that's all that I wanted to add. Thanks.
I agree 100%, Deputy Mayor. I agree that this project should go ahead. I did some research on it in the last couple of days, and I didn't realize that drain was in such need of repair all the way along. So I think this is a project that we have to go ahead and do it completely. So any other questions? Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is a tough one. This certainly isn't one of the happy files we're discussing tonight. So did I read in one of our emails from our administration that nobody went to the Court of Revision? Through you to Mr. Gerard or Mr. Nucio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Rude.
At the Court of Revision meeting, both the clerk and myself recorded that we had not received any written appeals. So the Drainage Board did not have any written appeals to consider at the Court of Revision meeting.
Okay, thank you. So in another question through you, Mr. Mayor, did the town of Essex has a bill to this, right? Assist to our roads. Do we have a bill for, did I see that somewhere too? That I don't have the drainage report in front of me, but can I get that answer too?
Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead,
Yes,
Kevin.
through you, Mr. Mayor. The drainage report in front of you in the agenda package does identify the town's portion. The town is paying for approximately 27% of the overall project cost as our apportionment, which is about $123,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is, and I don't know if we've ever done this before, I'm just thinking, and all the comments, I think I already know the answer, but I think I need to ask. There's no chance that retendering is going to bring us another price?
No, Councillor Bondi, I don't think so. I don't think that happened. Our CAO may be able to answer that, but.
Sure, through your worship. Good evening, everybody. I think Kevin was going to answer as well. I think we had nine people tender the job, which is a very competitive a group of contractors. So with that many, the likelihood of construction prices going down as you move them to the future, we haven't seen it with our recent projects. So I wouldn't anticipate it being lower if we retendered it with the amount of contractors we had and where we're at.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else from council? Yeah, we need Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going by the conversation, it looks like this is going to go through. So if there's something I could ask for, would be, I know that we have thresholds for how many years we can debenture things. It's up to a certain dollar amount that you can have a 5-year debenture, and needs to be greater than that to be a 10-year debenture. So because these are extreme times and people are having those issues, I would like to ask, I don't know if it's through Mr. Morrison or it's just up to council to say that whoever is looking to have this debenture, to give them the 10 years so that they can spread this out and make it more affordable. That way we're not using town money, but it gives them at least something that they can have a less monthly charge. So Mr. Morrison, if I can ask you that.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the chair, it would be up to council's wish. So if council decided to extend the terms for a 10-year debenture down to the $5,000 threshold, that would be up to council's wish. Keep in mind, though, that the trigger for the option 2 debenture, I believe it sits at $5,000 for the bylaw. So keep that in mind, but it would be up to council.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, did you, go ahead, Lindsay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. On this particular project, we did decide to go ahead and include in the bylaw that was passed a provision that residents could ask for a 10-year debenture if their threshold was over $1,500.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I seen that too. Okay, so that's answered, Councillor Bjorkman. So, Councillor Benedon, what's your pleasure here?
Just a point of information for other residents who live on other beach roads. Could you tell us, because other beaches will have to be done too, other drains, what is a typical charge to the typical household on this street for this project? Could you tell us that?
Who can answer that one?
As
Go
a
ahead.
resident, I could.
Kevin, go ahead.
I muted me.
Kevin, go ahead. You.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification, are you looking for on other beach roads, or are you looking for estimated assessments on this project?
On this project, please.
Okay, so I'll defer that to Norm, and he can talk a little bit to the average assessment within that property, or maybe the range of assessments from low to high, or an estimation.
Thanks, Kevin. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think most of these debentures are sitting around the 5-year debenture. So we're looking at anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. There is a handful of people that are probably over the $10,000 mark. Not every beach is the same either. We have beaches that have pump stations on them that could well exceed this type of price. This is a gravity fed system, so just kind of keep that in mind in terms of design. This could be much higher, but on this beach, I think there's about 35 residents plus the town, and we're looking at about anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 in assessment.
Thanks very much, Mr. Nisio.
Anybody else? So we're going to need direction here. We're going to need direction on this one here.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the report has recommendations of receipt and to award the request for tender to Sterling Ridge Infrastructure in the amount of $457,207.68, including non-refundable HST.
Mover, please. Need a mover. Councillor Benedol and Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As added to the agenda as item 6.5 under delegations, we have Miss Ann Beneteau and Monica Carruthers here representing the Community Garden Group. And this matters in relation to the property at 195 Bagot and specifically Bylaw 1981 that's on this evening's agenda.
Okay, great. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and speak.
Well, I'm Ann Beneteau. Are you able to hear me okay and see me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, very good. I live at 53 Sullivan Street, and that is opposite the schoolhouse on the lake. And we have a unique community garden right there at the schoolhouse. About 5 years ago, I approached council about having a school community garden there. And many of our neighbors were interested, and we came forward with a proposal. And it seemed that the council was very excited about that, and actually granted us money and space, and they've been nothing but awesome in caring for it. Nate Hamilton and Doug Sweet, they've always come through for us and put things in place. And I will tell you that it has been with dismay that the Garden Club has discovered that that property may go up for sale. And the group has been disappointed in that. And I think they're feeling a little personally confronted, but that can happen on many fronts. But I want you to know too that the garden has brought forward to the town different things, like there have been awards for community involvement. The team, the whole group, there's about 23 gardeners there currently, and there's 4 on the waiting list that are impacted. And it's not just about planting and growing fruits and vegetables. It's been about growing community. And I think when we came to council so many years ago, and it just felt right. It felt so right, because the community schoolhouse, the church, the manse, and the cemetery are all part of what has been traditionally the commons, the village commons. And in light of that, it just seemed like a really good fit for the community to be coming together around the garden plots. And it has been, our goal is to not just grow plants, but to grow community. And that has happened. Over the 5-year plan, we've expanded the garden. It has grown from just a few boxes the first year to see if we could work it all out. And we've expanded to, I think there's about 12 or 15 boxes now. So we have intergenerational family groups that are there. We have grandparents and then parent and child. And even on the waiting list, there are 3 moms with preschool children that are waiting for boxes. If we change, or, not only are they upset, but there is a real definite need for connection. People are turning more and more to technology. They're not interacting in the same way. And getting over there to the garden has made it possible for people to share their concerns, their needs, their stories. And it has been a place where there's been true connection. And we really don't want to lose that. And as you walk down Sullivan Street and you come toward the garden, you can see the church is there and the schoolhouse is there, and it's a place of peace and calm. And it brings forward to each person that comes walking into that space. It's always been part of any development plan that I've seen for Colchester, has always included the Jackson Street to the historic district, walking down Sullivan Street or cycling down Sullivan Street. It has expanded the area. I think it really enhances the winery route and what happens here along the wineries. I think it's a tourist destination that already works. People are looking for places that aren't highly developed and that give that peace and calm. I appreciate your time. I really appreciate that the town council has accepted our group and been part of that. And you have been so cooperative, and we do appreciate that. We want you to know that, but we really want to stay in that space. Some of the gardeners have enhanced the soil and put a lot of money into adding materials and getting them set up so that they're really quite comfortable with it, and they don't want to be displaced. All this pivoting in the pandemic, they don't want to pivot in their garden. So we wanted to bring that forward. Monica, you have a PowerPoint, I believe, so she's going to share a little bit of what our garden's been about.
Thank you. Go ahead, Monica.
Thank you. With your permission to share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, my PowerPoint presentation is going to repeat.
Go ahead, Monica, you're on.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, there we go. I'm
Yeah.
going to be, share, can you see my slides now?
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead. We have 5 minutes, Monica. We got a big delegation here.
Yes, and this is just going to support what Anne just went through. There's our old schoolhouse community garden sign that was designed by one of our members, and the schoolhouse there. You know, our sort of motto is cultivating community while enhancing and sharing gardening practices with accessibility for all at the old schoolhouse in Colchester. And with accessibility, as we've had some families whose members were in wheelchairs, and the town was able to put in the gravel pathways between so that wheelchair access was there. And so, yes, again, thank you to the town for the gardens and helping us put those together. There's our accessible pathways there. And for regular water supply as well, that's delivered in this way here. The historical charm and neighborhood or community connection are the reason that people love the village of Colchester. It brings people together, knowing the history that we, you know, learn about the schoolhouse, the church, and other historical things that are in that very block. And as you look down Sullivan, as Anne said, there is the church in the background and the schoolhouse together, and they are a perfect pair, really. We've learned together, we've learned about growing food, about food sensitivity, about how to grow food, and then we've shared our excesses with our community. And of course, not during the pandemic, but we've had a basket there for people walking by to take what they need and share back if they can. And they've brought things from their own homes to share and trade in the past years. We found this connection with the community really exciting, actually. And we've been recognized by our community through, you know, being featured in the in the Harrow News. We've had organized events for the community, not just for the garden members, because it is a community garden, which means it is for the whole community to come together and meet. We received the Landscapes Initiative Award in 2016. And so, you know, Communities in Bloom has valued our efforts and our, you know, Mark Cullen came last summer to make a presentation for our community involvement. So we've really tried to be a community, you know, place to go, not just for the garden members, but for everyone passing by who come and are enthusiastic. We have someone in our neighborhood who doesn't have a garden, but who comes to help us clean it. Children and families are learning from the garden about local pollinators, and these are one of them, the swallowtail butterfly. And the chimney of the schoolhouse is also a roost for a colony of swifts, chimney swifts, that are observed by birders from far and near. Chimney swifts are endangered species, so that's something to consider as well. We had Flute Fusion come and play at the Colchester Classic Concert and did fundraising for the schoolhouse itself and the Explore the Shore event. And there they are playing in the church as well. Our garden was expanded in 2018, and now we have a waiting list for 2021. More families, as Anne said, and we're very excited to engage more families. There was our plan for 2018. We've been building a sense of community, more than a garden, but engaging the neighbors, the visitors, the tourists. This is somewhat of a tourist destination. We've had cyclers, we've had, you know, people coming in from Explore the Shore, learning about our historical buildings and our gardens, and they're very excited about that. This day we had an event where we were decorating for the garden together as a group, but it's about fellowship and about building community and knowing our neighbors and people who visit us. Growing relationships and a sense of belonging. Our community is very, sort of has old world charm in a way. And we have a lot of photographers come and take pictures, not just of our community garden, but of the schoolhouse, of the churches that are in our small corner there. Sorry, and during COVID, of course, we followed the rules and we're, being safe together. The garden is part of the historical schoolhouse site, and it's exciting to be part of it and about being part of this community. Some of you may or may not know that back in 2011, when there was the open house at the schoolhouse, we were inside the building and saw the wonderful charm inside there. And I was one of the presenters that talked about possibilities for that as a community center, and have been waiting to hear all these years what will happen to our wonderful community center at the schoolhouse. So I have a broken heart if it sells. Thank you for listening.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for the presentation.
Mhm.
Okay, who's,
Through you,
what
Mr.
we're gonna do, we're gonna listen to all the presentations, okay? Once again, I'm just gonna say we have a lot of people that want to speak yet here tonight, a lot. And we're only 1/3 through our agenda package. So please, let's try to keep it to 5 minutes. We understand the need for what you're saying, and we appreciate all your thoughts and your ideas and everything you bring forward, but we have to keep it at 5 minutes because we'll never get through the agenda package tonight. So who's next?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also added as a delegation as 6.6 to this evening's agenda is Mr. Perry Basden. He's here as well to speak on 195 Bagot.
Go ahead, Perry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I haven't got a video yet. Something's going on haywire here, but I can proceed without any problem. The reason I wish to appear was that I wish to oppose the disposition of this property for various reasons. One is, of course, that the schoolhouse made me just fit at the end of a wrecking ball. The Heritage Committee for the last couple of years seems to have some interest by individuals in keeping the property as a heritage property. I went through minutes for about the last, anything that was online, let's put it that way. And I can see where it has been suggested quite a few times by Rita Jabbour how to proceed to form a Friends of the Old Schoolhouse nonprofit, which then would be able to access funds that are not normally available to council. Over the minutes, just as an example, as early as 2017, 2018, there was no mention of the schoolhouse in any of the Heritage Committee meetings that I could find. The first instance of it that I have been able to locate was part of a meeting of March 28th, and in which Rita said this, at that time, the council had no plans for the schoolhouse at that time. There was a meeting set up by Fred Groves to have a look-see inside there at the schoolhouse itself. Again, April 26, 2018, no mention of the old schoolhouse. It's not even on the agenda. Same for May. In June of 2018, Rodney Hammond attended with questions about the old schoolhouse and to learn about plans for it. And he would be in favor of having it restored at that time. At that time, Deputy Mayor Malash said the town acquired the schoolhouse, a brief history of it. And as a result of Rodney being there and the other efforts, the item was put on as item 9B of the agenda, where it was suggested that the committee agreed that the first steps should be to initiate a Friends of the Colchester Schoolhouse in order to secure grants. September 27th, it was still on the new business list. And Rita had contacted at that time Robert Leverty, from the Ontario Historical Society about producing the Friends of the Colchester Schoolhouse and advice of costs of it at that time and things like that, and some of the various requirements. Again, carrying on for October, November of 2019, there was no information on it. It was on the agenda item as just ongoing or no mention at all. January 31st, Rita advises there was significant interest by residents, members, sort of friends of the Colchester Schoolhouse. And again, she outlined how to go about it to some extent. You need 5 people to operate the not-for-profit organization and to apply for grants and various other things. Council, and she requested at that time, she said, stated that to initiate the process, council will put forth a call to general public to determine if there's sufficient interest to establish a society. I don't know the results of that. I haven't seen anything in writing anywhere where it has been on an agenda, although I've had a very short time to look. A February meeting, March meeting, April meeting, May meeting, all of 2019 were canceled. June, there was a special meeting. Let's see. At that time, item 6K of that meeting of June the 5th, 2019, Richard Kokavai was wanted to start a French conversation about starting this friends group with local residents. Lease Geischer, if I'm mistaking it correctly, I'm sorry, who is a research student, advised that Colchester was having a family fun day coming up, and perhaps the town of Essex was having a display there, and concerning the rezoning of the downtown area of Colchester from residential zoning to commercial. And she also advised at that time that the schoolhouse would fall under that zoning. Stated because something consider would be to develop a flyer that could be handed out.
Mary,
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you, but you got about half a minute left. Like I say, we
Okay.
got. Okay, thank you.
Well, basically, COVID came along, killed all the meetings for the following year. There is some interest in it. I'm willing to take the lead on it if necessary. I have contacted several individuals who have shown interest in the past through Councillor Bjorkman, I'm sorry, and others. I don't have the individuals that he had talked to him specifically, but I can generate interest. I can get you a list of people who are interested in trying to solve this problem and save the old schoolhouse from possible demolition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Perry, for the presentation. Sorry to rush you along, but
No
we have
problem.
a lot of delegations. Go ahead. Who's the next?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also added to 6.7 is Miss Sandra McKee, again, here to speak about 195 Bagot.
Okay, she's up.
Okay,
Okay.
it doesn't appear that she's here at the current moment. So Mr. Mayor, added as 6.8 is Carol and Lynn Quick.
Yeah, they're on. Okay, go ahead, Carol. Carol, it's Larry, go ahead.
There, can you hear me?
Carol? it's
Hello?
Larry. 5 minutes, hon.
Hi, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to try and not repeat what others have said. I think it's very obvious right now, just even from this response, since the newspaper came out, how much excitement it has generated. And, you know, we've lived across the street from the school for 24 years. And throughout the years since the town has purchased it, as we've heard, there have been a lot of suggestions, and we've also seen many plans that have been put forward that has cost the town, I'm sure, a lot of money for studies and plans. But as you've heard, nothing has come through of that. What I can see here and what I feel from the community, why I know there is a dollar factor in all of your thinking, and I understand that completely. How many roofs can you put on the school and so on and so forth. But we've never had anything where it's brought the community in and say, okay, people, what can we do to maintain this school? Whether it's through contests, through talking, let's get some ideas, let's do fundraisers. From what I can see, so many people love that school, and I'm of course one of them, and that property. And it's only got better and better all the years that I've been here. And I would like to know why the council hasn't said, people, let's come together. Show me what you can do with this place. I don't expect everything to be on your shoulders, but with that kind of excitement, a lot can be done. And I'm going to just touch on one little thing that really stuck out to me. As many of you know, that the south side of that school had to be resurfaced a few years ago. And then there was, I'm going to say a company or something that was hired to come up with some kind of an artwork to put on that school. And the company that was hired presented a picture to be painted on there that when I saw it, I could not believe it. It had absolutely nothing to do with our community, with our historic area, with our fishing community out here. I would have loved to have seen that been put out to the community and said, let's have a contest. We want some artwork sent into the town. Let us have a vote on it, and the winner gets whatever. But there's so many talented people in our area with so many good ideas to jump on board if only we were invited to do that. I want to touch on a couple of other things. The parking in the schoolyard. This summer especially, once they've got some bylaws and you put up some new signs, the parking has gone so well over there. And even the people who park there, we've got to talk with a lot of them. You know, there are 3 lots on County Road 50. I know that, but 2 of them are owned by Lonnie, I believe. If he ever decides to sell that property or build on it, you're left with 1 lot on County Road 50, and that will never be enough area for parking in the busy days that we have in the summertime. One thing I just want to touch on, the gardens. I haven't been involved in it actually in the last 2 years, but I'm an observer, and those people are so good over there. And even though I don't grow over there anymore, there's so many people who walk through that garden, including myself, with animals, with children. It's so well appreciated. It would be such a shock. And you know, especially in this year with the COVID, what a loss if you take that away. They had something to go to when they couldn't go anywhere else. And as Monica showed, they had signs for people to respect. And that's so important. And I have to tell you, even to have the article come out in the paper this past week, how upsetting that has been for so many people. We already can't get together with our children, with our grandchildren, and so on. And now to know that we maybe lose the schoolyard in the school is very upsetting. Lynn has been doing some investigating about the chimney swifts because we are part of Christ Church Colchester, and one of our past ministers' husbands did real research on the chimney swifts. And he actually was in touch at that time with the MNR, and they told us that the chimney swifts were protected. Lynn has been talking with the government for a day or two, and they are still supposed to get back to us. And apparently it has now been changed to the Ministry of Environment. And they do believe that there is still a very good chance that they are protected. The minister's husband at that time did contact the town and let them know about that decision a few years ago. And apparently the chimney is never supposed to be taken down. I can't say 100% that it's still that way, but we are still waiting back in response. And if any of you have never been out there in the summertime at dusk, you need to be out there and see that. It's quite the thing to see all of those birds out there.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you done, Carol? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And which minister was it? Was it John?
No, it was Christine Downey and her husband. It was at that time. I'm going to guess 10 to 15 years ago, but no more than that.
Okay, thanks, Carol, for the presentation.
Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, perhaps a motion to receive the presentations on 195 Bagot?
Yep. I'll need a motion to receive the presentations, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Bjorkman. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And then through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of the adoption of agenda earlier this evening, council agreed to move bylaw 1981, which was 17.2.4 on the agenda. Council agreed to move it up to 6.9 on the agenda. So we have before council bylaw 1981 being a bylaw for the declaration and disposition of surplus lands at 195 Bagot by the Corporation of the Town of Essex, currently proposed for 3 readings.
We need a mover to, we need a mover or discussion, please. Councillor Bowman, you're going to move it? A seconder? Need a seconder to move it? Councillor Van Dolen, any discussion? Councillor Malash, go ahead.
You mean Deputy Mayor Malash?
Oh, what did I say?
That's okay. I know what you were talking about.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say that, first of all, I want to go back to some of the presentations, and I just want to say, hopefully these people understand that the presenters understand that we weren't trying to diminish anything that or take away anything from their accomplishments that they had. For instance, the community gardens. I've been part of Communities in Bloom for a very long time. One of the original 2 councillors that started Communities in Bloom, and on council when we purchased the school. I've sat on the Heritage Committee and was the person that brought forward trying to figure out if we can have a Friends of the old schoolhouse in Colchester. Suggested the idea. I think this is great. I want to see the school preserved. We had a presentation that was given to us from administration based on someone who's, interested in the property, and we looked at it. So not that we were necessarily going to move forward on it, and it all happened very quick. But as far as the property goes, I want to ask administration if we declare it excess property, to try and figure out if there's a solution that we can perhaps move forward on to try and see if there's options other than removing the gardens. Maybe there's something that we can do. We're using it as a parking lot right now for overflow, but it's not the perfect location. And I think with the new parking lot that we have at the corner of Dunn and County Road 50, but we're situated much better. But I want to know from administration, if we look at this as an excess piece of property, once we were to declare it excess, can we reverse that? Can we reverse that decision?
Go ahead, Doug, if you can answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll address the first part of it, and I think our clerk, Mr. Auger, will have to answer the second. In terms of community garden, as Ms. Menito has mentioned, I've been working with our landscape technician, Nathan, to look at some options. So as council is aware, 255 Bagot, the north part of the property, is still town property. So we're looking at could go to that location, or one of the delegates also mentioned the other place he's looking at is across from the church. There's kind of the town's right away. So he's looking at areas there. So right from the beginning, if this occurred, we're looking at alternatives to make sure we could keep the community garden in that area. In terms of the surplus, I'll turn that over to our clerk, because I know council has declared it surplus, but I'm not sure if that can be reversed.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and to council, yes, if the question is, can council reconsider a previous resolution to declare the property as surplus, then yes, that can be done. But it does come with the caveat, I guess, that based on direction given by council after declaring surplus, we do have a conditional offer that's been accepted and to a private party. And that conditional offer right now is conditional upon bylaw passage, which council would have up to and including January 31st to pass that bylaw. And then there's some rezoning approvals needed as part of this conditional offer that would need to be satisfied by the end of March. So yes, to answer your question, yes, council can reconsider that decision, but they would be in jeopardy of losing a conditional deal that's currently before council.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Doug, first. Go ahead. And then we'll go back to Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Doug.
Sorry, just I wanted to add on from some of the delegates, just for clarification, because I think it'll lead into further conversations. And then when there's an unknown, sometimes you make assumptions. And council has seen through the presentation from the proponent that they're looking to preserve the schoolhouse and to utilize it. So I think some people think they're looking to demolish it. The idea from the proponent is to preserve it, to keep it as a heritage building and to continue to use it.
Good, thank you. Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
So two things, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I'd like to ask Mr. Auger if we can, what I'm saying is we may not remove the resolution this evening that this is excess property, but can we do it at a future point? And my other question is that how quickly can we make that, rather than having the old school as listed as a heritage asset, how quickly can we move it to being a heritage site?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't answer the last part, the heritage question, but certainly, yes, you could council could consider a motion to reconsider the declaration of surplus at a later date. But again, council just needs to be aware of the fact that the current conditional offer, if there isn't a bylaw passed accepting that offer, council, that deal could drop as of January 31st.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to touch on a number of pieces of this big puzzle and thank the several presenters that came forward tonight and let them know that indeed, as Mr. Sweet said, the reason for many of us councilors this seemed like a win-win-win was because the developer has intentions to preserve the school. So that in itself. I do want to touch on the fact that we all received an email from the chair of our Heritage Committee today asking that we defer our consideration on Bylaw 1981 until they had a chance to meet. And I think we should at the very least respect deferring it. I think that between now and January 30th, we need to try and get some information about what this developer has in mind to the public, because I think the unknown is what the neighbors fear, right? I'm really grateful that our deputy CAO was able to clarify for me about that they're already looking at moving the community garden, because an earlier presenter highlighted for us that, you know, people in our community are being hit with food insecurity now, and it's only going to get worse. So answers to this, to food insecurity are community gardens. I think, you know, it's all just coming together now. I think we need to be more transparent, and between now and the 30th, because those of us that were able to see the presentation of what the developers have in mind know that many people in this community may very well embrace the ideas that they have for the school and that piece of property. Also, the one presenter just pointed out that parking is an issue, and for sure some of the parking that we rely on is actually owned by someone other than the town of Essex. So if we ever at some point in the future lost that, would we be in trouble? So at the very least, I know we're voting on it right now. This is discussion on and the movement. It's been moved and seconded, but I think we have to consider the email we all received asking us to defer this by the chair of the Heritage Committee at the very least, and trying to just get the whole picture out there for the community, right? Because I'm learning a lot about this tonight, and we're all being called to vote on it. This is the first time I've heard you're looking at moving in the community garden, which is great, you know? So I'm just asking for more discussion around this before we make any major decisions. And then if we do have to go back and do the vote that the deputy mayor suggested, and take it off of the surplus sale availability thing, then that's what we're going to have to do. Or maybe the community will be happy with what the developer is presenting and we can move forward with them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bondi. Then we're going to go to Lori.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was a little worried about this and how fast it went through. We announced December 7th, I believe, in open session that we were declaring it surplus, and then the bylaw and the minutes from that meeting aren't really, that clear for the public. And then tonight, all we can really say, like our community's hearing tidbits right now that I'm not even sure we're allowed to talk about. So I think we have to talk about, all up until today, we weren't talking about a developer, and now it's out there that we have a developer, right? I was even confused myself, knowing if we had one developer or if we're just declaring it surplus and then we're putting it out for bids, because it's all happened so fast. So now we're learning that, which we knew, that the Colchester old schoolhouse is pretty near and dear to our community. So I think I need to revisit myself. I want to see the master plan for Colchester, because we've made reference to what the master plan is. I want to know, I think if I don't know, Councillor Verbeek said it, so maybe I'm going to say it. I think that it looks great what they're presenting, but is it what we want for the community, or is it what the community wants for the community? That's where I'm struggling with. I'm not struggling so much in selling it, because I don't believe we're ever going to be able to take care of it and develop it the way we would like to. If we had a lot of money, absolutely, but we have roads that are crumbling and so many other things that I don't believe we're ever going to have the 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 to invest in the schoolhouse to make it really an asset. And I think it would be tough during COVID for any private, like a museum, to fundraise to do that, right? And we've already made a commitment to John R. Park Homestead to be that tourism hub for us. So we don't really want duplication either. We're investing $100,000 into the John R. Park Homestead facility. So we need to find a way to get the public on board with this proposal in a transparent manner. And tonight, I think we should, after everybody's done speaking, if nobody else makes the motion to table it, I would like to make the motion to table it until our January meeting. We absolutely need more time. The public need more time. And that's where I'm at. And if the developer is willing to stay with us and maybe the developer can come to council, that would be ideal, and share his thoughts and get the community behind him, because this is about our community. It's not exactly about what council wants. It's about what the community wants. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor, you're right. We got to be very careful what we're saying here tonight, because we were in camera. Okay. And here we are in a public meeting. We're in a public meeting releasing information that was in camera. And how many times do we have to say, stop releasing information that's in camera? We're coming out there in the public. Okay. And this, I strongly believe, this is the whole issue, why we had so many people come forward tonight. Somebody is releasing information into the public, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop, council, because it's going out there. Believe me, it is. Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'll try to ask a question that I believe I can ask tonight. I'm just looking for some clarification. So we have, I guess I'll refer to Mr. OJ because he made the comment. We have a conditional sale pending a change to the bylaw, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, pending council's passage of a bylaw approving that sale. Yes.
Right. So when you say that if that doesn't happen, the caveat was we risk it being dropped. When you say dropped, you mean the potential purchaser may drop the offer, but we would not be subjected to any, say, lawsuit of any kind, because it is just a conditional sale, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, first, I don't feel comfortable talking about litigation matters in public session, but certainly that would be my hope, that there wouldn't be a risk of litigation.
Okay, and then my last thing I just had was on the parking there. There is another parcel of property that's attached to that we are keeping for parking, correct, right?
That's correct.
And what does that space hold in terms of cars? Does anyone know roughly?
Doug, can you answer that roughly? How many vehicles that would hold? How wide is that, Doug? Do you know off the top of your head?
Here, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, I don't know that. It was an old, a regular sized lot. So you're probably, depending how you put them in, if it's cars, probably 40, 50 cars. Trailers would be different, right? It'd be a lot less trailers.
Yeah, so, okay, so just further that, Mr. Mayor, if I can. Okay, so we aren't going to lose all the parking down there. And my understanding is the excess parking that we usually need comes at various times of the summer. It's not every weekend of the summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Usually you have your peak times in your July and August, especially on the weekends. But even during the week, July and August, but other than that, it's weekends, May to September. Your busy times.
Thank you.
If I may speak on that, Councillor Guerin, I think I mentioned this before. Mr. Caddy Lonnie allows us to use that corner lot of his, but we own that property right beside it too, okay? And really, I don't see a lot of cars parking in there. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen that lot full yet. But along the beach, all the way along the park there, it's full of parking. And in that schoolyard during fishing season, when fishing is good, there's a lot of trailers in there too. But I've never seen that property beside Mr. Caddy's, okay, full of cars. I've never seen it. And that's a big parcel of land too. So I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Councillor.
Right, so through you, so I guess then they would, if this happened, they would force people to use that lot.
Exactly okay. Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Dolen, you had something to say, I think.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm going to be voting against any deferment. My mind hasn't changed in the month since we heard this proposal. Heck, we were all really excited about this, what was going to happen, because if your goal is to save that schoolhouse, our only hope to save it is to sell it, because it is falling apart before our eyes. It is half rotted in the last 10 years. Another 10 years, it'll probably be unsalvageable. We'll never be able to afford what it's going to cost under government rules to restore that thing. It would cost us millions that we should not spend on it, because we need to build our infrastructure and get our roads up to snuff. So we can't afford to fix it. And if we did, we wouldn't be able to afford the permanent money pit drain that it would be. I mean, 2 of our 3 existing museums are already in financial dire straits. We can't add another one. That's insane. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. So if you want to save the schoolhouse, you have to sell it to somebody who's willing to invest a large amount of money in it to refurbish it. And we have that. I mean, we're not going to get a better deal than refurbishment of the thing that everyone wants refurbished. If we defer this, that's just a passive aggressive way of killing the project. Everybody here knows that. It's just kind of the long, slow slide into the water where it drowns. So I think we should move ahead with this. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, Laurie, before I come to you, Laurie, Councillor Bjorkman has been waiting to speak. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll have to argue that point that not everybody was jumping over their desks for this at the announcement, because this wasn't something I was thrilled with at the start. I want to first thank all the people in our community who came forward today in emails and phone calls and showing up here tonight and being passionate about their village and passionate about the history of it and what it means to them and how they feel about it. All of that has to enter into our thinking. These people are the people who live here. This is a very small village, a very small part of the greater town of Essex, and we need to listen to them and hear them. The idea of deferring this because we actually have been given that line from the proponent saying they don't need to hear from us until the end of January. It's smart of us to take the time. To your point, a couple of weeks ago, it was pretty much all engines full. We're going through with this until we start hearing from the people it's affecting directly. And then a number of us are saying, you know what, we need to look at this. We need to look at that. So I'm hoping that this conversation, and I'm glad it's taking this long. And I know we've got a long meeting tonight, but these are the things we have to do sometimes. We need to get all the information and let people talk, and perhaps generate some passion in our populace that say, you know what, we are going to form a group. We are going to do the work. This isn't something that council is going to lead. This is something that the community is going to get behind and launch into and do because it's a group in the community that can get funding that this council can't get. There's lots of funding out there for community groups who are looking to improve their areas and save their heritage. So this all goes back now onto the community. They've come forward, they've said they want to get involved, and now they have an opportunity to make that change in their own community. So I am 100% in favor of pushing this out until the second meeting in January, and giving everybody that opportunity to continue to talk and to continue to come forward with their ideas and some initiatives. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Lori, you were next.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been waiting quite patiently to say a few words and to also share some information so that the public is made aware as well as council. So first and foremost, the proposal was brought forward to our department, to Development Services, in November of 2020, as a result of some work that we were undertaking alongside a potential developer that was looking to develop in our municipality a short-term rental boutique accommodations type of facility along County Road 50 to take advantage of the wine district, the shoreline, the beach, the Colchester Harbor, the active transportation route to really to encourage that kind of tourism experience, especially to kind of build upon the area's agritourism experience. So that work alongside our economic development officer, as he would do with any developer, looked at sites. What suitable sites are there? And the sites that we came across were either not suitable for in terms of size, or were not suitable in terms of vision. And that vision essentially is important for what the community wants. And as several of our individuals tonight spoke to, the community in the Colchester Secondary Plan area, and that Colchester Secondary Plan that forms the official plan for the region and for the community. So we found this particular site did meet the needs of the proposal. Again, that short-term rental, boutique type of accommodations. And that is something that's permitted to be able to share tonight because we no longer in the negotiations phase, which is why things were in closed session during negotiation. So we're now at a point where the potential buyer was ready to proceed with a site-specific zoning amendment to permit those short-term accommodations for the tourism industry. And so that zoning bylaw amendment would put us at a position where we would consult with the public during the public meeting prior to any decision making on the rezoning. So right now the property is zoned G 1.2, which is a green district 1.2, which currently only permits recreational uses such as a campground, fairground, even arenas and golf courses. So it's very specific. And so a developer or a buyer couldn't proceed with the rezoning because they aren't the owner. And so that spawned the conversations of, would the town be willing to surplus this land? We wouldn't have brought forward any application to, I guess, the in closed session if it wasn't something that was in line and conforms to our official plan and conforms to the designation in the Colchester secondary plan. So there is quite a bit of flexibility in the Colchester secondary plan for these properties. They're known as Hamlet, or at Colchester Hamlet rather. And so there is flexibility, but there really is quite a vision for that agritourism experience and the tourism experience, that tourist destination. So I can share with you as well that the intention again is to draw upon that land, and a success of their own existing short-term accommodation. So these developers are not new to the industry, and they wanted to offer something along the wine route. During that zoning bylaw amendment phase, we are happy, and the developer was happy to be able to share a lot of that information at the public meeting. We were looking towards providing notice to the public, getting into that January or February phase. We weren't able to do that, again, because the applicant doesn't own the property. The next, step during that zoning bylaw notification was to notify the Heritage Committee. So during the time of bringing this to closed session for purchase, during negotiations, the sensitivity during negotiations, we were not able to bring forward an item to the Heritage Committee. I understand that the Heritage Committee is keen on understanding what is happening, and that would have occurred during the initial phases as soon as we were at a point where we could issue notice for the rezoning. The final step in the development process is the site plan control process, and that, of course, is also a public process in that it comes to council for final decision making. The developer, as we've already heard, has quite a strong desire to preserve the uniqueness of the Colchester Schoolhouse, and does not want to touch the schoolhouse in any way in terms of demolishing or removing any components whatsoever, is quite knowledgeable on the fact that it is listed as a heritage structure, and wants to again preserve that unique character of the not only of the site but also of the community. The goal for the developer is to really support and enhance visitor accommodation to the area, to promote access to the lakefront and to trails, winery, recreation opportunities as well. I hope I touched on everything. There was quite a bit tonight. I think I touched on everything. If there's anything else that comes up, I'll raise my hand. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lori. I think Councillor Verbeek, you were next.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank you very much, Ms. Chadwick, for that, because it's definitely the sense that I received from all of the emails I was pouring through that were pouring in from the residents, was that they're one of their big concerns. There were many, but was that they felt there was a lack of transparency. And so you were able to clarify for us tonight that indeed there wasn't. It was the steps that were taken to bring us there, but with all intent of being transparent when the time came. And I appreciate that you were able to clarify that, especially since I think a lot of people paying attention right now because they were concerned that there wasn't the amount of transparency that there shouldn't be. So thanks for, bringing that around for us.
Thank you. Councillor Karen, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things came up while Councillor Bjorkman was talking and Ms. Chadwick. So a couple of questions I have. so the schoolhouse it's listed, but it's not a registered. Would the purchaser be obligated to preserve that schoolhouse? And if so, at what level? So if does the town tell them what they have to do if there's a roofing problem or anything along those lines? And I got a couple more questions.
Go ahead, Lori. Can you answer that?
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Guerin. So the property is listed, as you had indicated. That's correct. It is not a designated property, but that listing does have protections. The protections against a demolition of any sort to the structure, and that demolition proposal, if, and I mean big, big, big if, would need to go to the Heritage Committee, at which time the recommendation would be made to council whether to approve the demolition or not. Committee meetings are public, and it would be an opportunity for any neighbors to comment on whether they support a demolition or not. Even in terms of replacing a roof, that also is something that needs to come to the committee and proceed to council as well. So it's an onerous job, and it's certainly, again, that big if the developer wants to do anything to that structure.
Well, I guess where I was going with it was not so much in that respect. I want to know if the building starts to fall apart, it's a property standards issue, but not to the degree where maybe our bylaw enforcement would go in there and make an order. But if we just feel that the building is not being kept up to the eyes of what our residents would want in any regard, they paint it purple, they, anything along those lines, or we just feel that they're just not putting the TLC into the building that we would like it to have. That's where I'm kind of going with it. What restraints are on the purchaser?
For you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Guerin. Yeah, I do understand your question, even more so. The intent has always been, or will be, to maintain the property, to maintain the building, and if it's found to be in derelict, and if, for example, there is an order placed from a property standards perspective, I'm fully confident that the developer would be willing to work with the municipality. Again, it's not their intent whatsoever to let it go to such a derelict place that it becomes an eyesore. On the other hand, if there is a public safety concern, a complaint brought forward, for example, our bylaw enforcement team would have that obligation as well, to be diligent to ensure that no one is in harm's way. There's no plan at this time to allow for habitation within the building or the structure itself. And surely, if it's something that the developer does consider, it would need to go through the proper development steps, building review, heritage review as well.
Yeah, these are the things I'm trying to get out publicly, that so I think it's important to our residents, they know that how that building looks, say today, should be in our eyes and in our residents' eyes how we want it to look 10 years from now as well, or 15 years from now, or whatever. So it's very important that everyone's on the same page with that. Then the other question I had was Councillor Borkman had brought up about organizations or community groups getting together and applying for grants. I want to ask Councillor or Mr. Sweet, sorry, have we applied as a municipality for grants, restoration grants of any kind in the past? And do organizations or community groups that are behind projects of municipal owned properties, do they have a better opportunity or different opportunities to get grants that a municipality can't get, that you know of?
You, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Guerin. I'm not aware of grants that we've applied for in the past. Lori may know because it came maybe through the Heritage Committee or what they've seen. But in any grant, a lot of times, if you can partner with a user group, you're more likely to get some grants at times, but it's usually not as much as sometimes a municipality, because you usually get those larger infrastructure grants. But I'll defer also to Ms. Chadwick.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I think I misunderstood your question. I thought it was related to community improvement grants. So those community improvement plan grants would be available to this property for private developers to rehabilitate, to revitalize, and of course to put that property on the map in terms of getting it to a position where it would be rehabilitated. Now, just to quickly go back on a question that Councillor Guerin had just asked about the property and the condition, just as a reminder, as a listed property, the building itself as well, any exterior work, repairs or painting or any of that would need to go through the Heritage Committee. It's still considered a historically significant structure and could not, for example, you know, a blue steeple couldn't be put up or erected onto that building whatsoever. So I just wanted a quick reminder, or friendly reminder on that.
Thank you, Lori. Anybody else? Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would still like to have this tabled, even though we're having a really good conversation. I believe that the developer is going to want to have a good relationship with the community and buy-in with the community. We look at what we went through with the whole sign debacle, and I don't want to go through that again. So I would like to table this until we potentially can have the developer come and pitch his idea. It's not a bad idea for him to come to council, into the community and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. What are the community concerns? This is a right now it is a public asset. It is our building. It is the community's building. Asking the developer to come to council is not a bad idea. So I would like to make a motion that we table this until January.
Need a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Malash, you second it? Deputy Mayor Malash, are you gonna second
Table it until our first meeting in January,
Okay.
please.
All right, all in favor of that, tabling it? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As added this evening as delegation 6.10, we have Mr. Thomas Brew, and Mr. Brew is here to speak to what was originally agenda item 8.5, but which through the adoption of agenda was added as 6.11, and that is Infrastructure Services Report 2020-10, third concession truck traffic petition, which report is before council for receipt of the report, the petition, with the administration recommendation that the third concession remain a Class B road, but that the residents' concerns and speed limit reduction petition be addressed through the town's policy for establishing speed limits.
Thank you, Rob.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Brew is available by telephone this evening. So we apologize if there is any audio issues, but we'll try to turn it up as loud as possible.
Okay, just listen, council. It might be a little hard to hear. Go ahead, Tom.
Good evening, everyone.
Can everybody hear him?
Can everybody hear me?
Can you bring that? So we'll try it once again.
Hold on one sec.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, try now.
Go ahead, Tom, try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the town council for allowing me to speak on this topic for the residents of the third concession from McLean Side Road to the McCormick. The petition submitted was signed by 99% of the residents from the McLean to the McCormick. Excuse me. And each resident did not hesitate once to give their concerns for the safety of the people living on the third. A large majority of the homes on this stretch are near the road, unlike east of the McCormick. After submitting said petition, I have spoken to two residents on the third near Walker Road, and both have the same safety concerns as the group east of McLean. In fact, I believe their safety concerns are much more valid as they live closer to Harrow in a closely built up area. I'd spoken to one elderly resident down by the Ferris Road, who when putting on her blue boxes, a transport truck passed by her, giving a scare for her life. She advised that said truck did not move over to give her a safety net near the road. This also happened to my next door neighbor while cutting his front lawn near the road. We have residents who walk on the side of the road with the dogs but no longer do so because of transport traffic. We have bikers, walkers, and joggers who also utilize the roadway. A young family down by the McCormick are concerned for the safety of their children when getting on and off their school buses. In addition to the safety of the residents, we are also concerned over the wildlife on the third. Mr. Jim Parker advises that he has deer crossing the road by his place all the time. Mr. Dave McCarthy, who lives across the road from the Parkers, had a doe hide her fawn in his backyard for a day this past spring. I have seen a small herd of deer running behind Miss Nancy Ford's resident, eventually crossing the road north a number of times. As well, I have witnessed deer crossing down by the fairs. Last year, we saw a young deer dead laying by the road east of the McCormick. As well, my son also witnessed a dead deer in the field in the same area. So it is not only a safety concern for the residents, but also for the wildlife and drivers who may be involved in any of them. We note that in your report, you indicate that the OPP did a blitz on the 3rd and did not find any loaded transports. Of the people that I have talked to, the only one who witnessed any type of a blitz was Mrs. Nancy Ford, who has a photo of an OPP cruiser sitting in the driveway watching the transport pass by him, all wheels down. I have witnessed, and so has Mrs. Ford, a black transport with a loaded flatbed tarped running east on the 3rd more than once. And just last week, I passed a flatbed carrying an extremely large cylinder that was larger than a pickup truck, also heading east on the 3rd. So yes, there are loaded transports on the 3rd. Mrs. Ford gave me a list of trucks running down the 3rd that she has seen, which is well over 80 trucks in 2.5 months that she has witnessed. Now you can't tell us that all these are running empty. The speed sign has been set up twice within the last year. However, east of the McCormick. A few years ago, it was set up in front of my house. However, it did not stop the speeding. In fact, the teenagers would speed their dirt bikes by the sign to see how fast they could go. So in our opinion, the sign does not stop speeding or transport traffic, which this particular petition is about. So I'm not sure why this is part of the report. The MTO did come out twice. However, it was on a Saturday, which there's next to no transport traffic. But they did indicate that the 3rd is not actually made for transport traffic. And if you notice, the road west of the fairs is deteriorating as we speak, a cost to repair to the taxpayers. He did use his radar gun and clocked a number of speeders using the 3rd. The following midweek, 2 MTO officers came out to patrol. Unfortunately, that was when the Arner and County Road 20 were shut down due to the gas concerns, and the transports had no other option but to use our 3rd. You say closing the road to transport traffic will cause a negative impact on businesses that operate near and on their concession. Other than Snyder's Garage, what other businesses are there? None. And Snyder's is just off Walker Road. We do not see how closing the 3rd to the transport traffic will have a negative effect on their business. A quick turn in the Snyder's lot off Walker Road should not be a problem. They do not have to go a half a mile down the road to enter Snyder's, but rather a few yards. We read with interest your link to strategic priorities that reads, and I quote, create a safe, friendly, and inclusive community which encourages healthy, active living for people of all ages and abilities. The residents of the 3rd do not feel safe, friendly, nor healthy living with this transport traffic problem. In conclusion, we are requesting that said transport traffic be stopped on the 3rd and rerouted to the county roads of 18 and 20 that are built to accept this kind of traffic. Residents feel that such traffic should not be allowed on concession roads. We cannot stress the fact enough that this petition was signed by 99% of the residents approached. On a lighter note, I'd like to thank the council for their excellent work in keeping our tax rate low this year, and wish you all and your families a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I think, Kevin, you want to speak on this. Kevin? Are you there?
Yep. Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the facts are presented to council in the report that was included in your agenda package. There are two types of roads that are designated under the Highway Traffic Act: Class A road, which are typically provincial highways, and larger, more frequented roads, and then the Class B roads, which are identified in the Highway Traffic Act, but also governed under town bylaw. This is what makes roads essentially enforceable to the OPP is the bylaw that we pass. The bylaw that we currently have identifies the Class B road as a road that can carry up to 5 tons per axle. Concession roads in the town of Essex are designed to take Class B traffic. They are designed to take Class B traffic, which would typically be the unloaded truck, as Mr. Brew had mentioned. In addition, it also is designed to take on much agricultural traffic, which sometimes can be heavier on an axle or point load than some tractor trailers as well. This road specifically, being a Class B road, would not permit a loaded truck that would be in excess of the 5 tons per axle. The concern that I have with changing this road to a no truck route would be that it would open ourselves up to precedent for other concession roads. We've seen it before with traffic impacts on town of Essex roads, where when it becomes inconvenient for certain traffic to travel down that road because of weight restrictions or speed limits, that traffic tends to go elsewhere. We saw it a little bit with the 4th concession, with the change in the speed reduction in speed limit, increasing the traffic on the 5th concession and the 3rd concession. And we would likely see that same effect on the 3rd concession with a reduction in truck traffic. So essentially saying that if we restrict truck traffic to the 3rd concession, it's likely going to move to the 4th. Then those residents are likely going to have a precedent-setting circumstance because of this situation if we were to not permit truck traffic, and we would eventually open it up to the 4th concession to identify that as a no truck route, and eventually it would get to the 5th, and so on and so forth. So the roads are designed to take this traffic. We have been working very closely with the OPP. We've talked to the MTO. Mr. Brew and the residents of the 3rd concession have definitely voiced their concerns with myself, with some of council, and they've even had discussions with the OPP and the MTO, as Mr. Brew had mentioned. This is more of an enforcement issue than it is a town classification issue. So we did ask the OPP to step up enforcement in that area. They did pull over a good amount of trucks, I would say. I was told around 10 to 12 trucks over a 2-day period, which were all checked and unloaded. That's not to say that Mr. Brew is incorrect and that there aren't loaded trucks traveling down that road. It could have just been the time of day and the time that the OPP was there evaluating the road. But it is an enforcement issue that likely will not be rectified by setting this precedent. So all the facts are in the report. I would be happy to answer any questions that council may have with regards to this.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions from council? Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Gerard, I think 10 to 12 trucks, pulling over 10 to 12 trucks isn't probably a good enough sample. I think we should continue and do that a little bit more and get a higher sample, because I'm getting emailed constantly, and I think that there is more opportunities. So I think we have to focus back on that for enforcement if we're not going to mark the third as a no truck route. And I understand, I see that side too. It seems like the problems on the third started coming more my way when we changed the speed limit on the fourth. I know I've said that before, but I get a lot of complaints on the third concession. Truck traffic, speeding traffic. And so I'm kind of at my wit's end too. When we passed the heavy truck bylaw, did we do any public education? I do remember asking, sorry again, I do remember asking that, you know, could we reach out? Could we do some social media posts saying, you know, trucks, please try to use the county roads. That's the roads we want them on. So just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to our administration. What have we done for public education?
Can answer that. Chris, can you answer that? Or Kevin? Go ahead, Kevin. You answer it. Go ahead.
For the heavy truck permit and fill bylaw that was adopted by council previously, it doesn't technically identify the Class B roads. It does identify Class A roads and the routes in which we want the trucks to stay on. We can do more public education. It might be prudent to do more public education, social media posts, and maybe some updates to our website. But specifically to this circumstance, I would say that, you know, there's not much public education that can be done. So, I mean, I'm happy to develop a program that would, and work with our manager of communications closely to try and develop some kind of communication plan and some more awareness to truck traffic. It's not going to hurt, but I can't imagine that it's going to hit the entire truck traffic community, right? But some more awareness, we could definitely do it.
Okay, further to that, Mr. Mayor, to our chair of our police service board now, can we, Ms. Verbeek, can you bring this back to your next police service board meeting in January, please? That truck inspections on this road are important to this community to make sure that they're within their weight limit.
Good. If I can just comment on this issue myself, I've sat beside OPP several times on the third concession in Selleck Drive there in that subdivision. And yes, we pulled over a couple loaded trucks. This is an enforcement issue. Okay, I don't know, Councillor Bondi, you say you're getting flooded with emails and calls about the speed on the third. I don't know how you're getting them all, and I've got 2 or 3, but it seems like you're always getting flooded with emails. And I really like to try to figure out why you're getting flooded with emails. But I've had a couple emails on it, and I've sat on the third, and I've actually seen the OPP pull over loaded trucks, a couple loaded trucks. But once again, I don't know how you get flooded with emails. I really don't. But anyways, I'll leave it at that.
I'm just the go-to girl, Mr. Mayor. They come to me.
I guess you are.
May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Since you have left our area and are now the mayor, the transport traffic on this road has increased well over 100%. It wasn't that busy when you were the council, but since leaving, it's just horrendous.
But Tom, it is an enforcement issue. You and I spoke on this before. It is definitely an OPP enforcement issue, and we know that. And I think what we have to do is pressure the OPP to kind of patrol the road a little bit more at certain times of day. I'm sure, Tom, it's certain times of day where you see more the truck traffic down there during the day.
In the morning, in the afternoon. Nancy Ford's report starts about 7:21 to be exact, and goes to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So her report goes from 7 to approximately 10, and then she's got a couple at 2, and then goes to 4.
Yeah, I think
so
this
early in the morning and later on in the afternoon.
Thanks, Tom. I think this is a kind of information the OPP has to have. So thank you for that, Tom.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah. Anybody else from council want to speak on the issue? Go ahead, Councillor Vanderdolen, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, well, the truck thing, you know, so Ms. Ford did her count, and she only found one truck a day over like 75 days, 80 trucks. It's one a day. That doesn't seem to me to be enough to discriminate against a whole class of workers. And by that, I mean truck drivers, who are an important working group, not to mention their industry, which is an important business. And, you know, they have a right to use our roads too. And they are heavily taxed, far more than everyone else. And so one truck a day, we're going to ban them. Now, I agree that if they're loaded, they shouldn't be there. And as the mayor says, that's enforcement. That's a separate issue from banning trucks or getting them all off the road. The speeding is really interesting. You know, I get more complaints about speeding than anything else as a councillor. But I also get complaints about the lowered speed limit on the 4th. People are bitterly opposed to that lower speed limit. I mean, I have one neighborhood resident who's complained to me that since the 4th was lowered to 60, they all speed on the 3rd. Therefore, we should raise it back to 80 on the 4th, but cut it down to 40 on the 3rd. So of course, all the traffic will come up to the 4th and the 5th towards where I live. You know, when people think that way, like they're having a beggar thy neighbor attitude, where, you know, well, just lower it in my area and to hell with everybody else. And that's one of the reasons why we have this problem. As a resident of Pleasant Valley, I would love to see all of the limits lowered to 60, but I think I'm not in the majority there. I like to drive slow and look at the grass and the trees. But if we could cut it to 60, that means that people would probably keep it down to 80 or 90. As it is now, everybody's doing 100 to 110. The speeders are doing 110. And to me, the noise is the biggest issue, because I don't walk or cycle that much on those roads. But the noise is brutal when people are going through those potholy roads at 100 kilometers an hour, you know, whoop, whoop, past your house. You know, I spend a lot of time in houses on the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th, and I think the speed is terrible. But as for the trucks, I wouldn't support banning them, but speed limit. But, you know, maybe we should have to have a referendum on this, because people are so split. This is like trying to talk to a room full of Trump versus Biden supporters. You can't get they're not rational. Like, everybody's this way, everybody's that way. I don't know how to fix this, frankly.
Trump and Biden, eh, Councillor? Tom, you know, you already spoke a couple times on it, but it's up to council now. We got council discussion. We heard your concerns, and we know that. Okay, go ahead. Who's next on council to speak on the issue? Nobody else? I'll give you one more minute, Tom, and then we got, like I say, we got a huge agenda yet.
Sure, I appreciate that. Yeah, okay. What Nancy Ford saw is just what she happened to see. I myself have witnessed at least 4 to 5 a day, if not more, running down the road. And we do have another petition in for dropping the speed limit to 60. If that could be bumped up quicker, that would be appreciated. That's all.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Okay, anybody else from council? Okay, thank you, Tom, for phoning in.
Thank you.
You want to move to receive the presentation, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor?
I do. Yes.
Motion to receive the presentation.
Seconder, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And then through you, Mr. Mayor, we still have infrastructure services report 2020-10 with recommendations.
Yep. Go ahead.
So it's through you, Mr. Council. I don't know, through you, Mr. Mayor. Does council wish to move with that report and recommendations?
Do we need a mover on this one? Move the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Bowman. I just want to say one thing before we go any farther on this. I want to thank Councillor Vanderdolen on this, and Kevin. for our future development and water capacity. Thank you, Councillor Vandendon, for going to bat for us at Union Water for future development. And I think
Through your worship, just to interrupt you, we're still dealing with the truck report.
Oh, I thought we were done with that.
No, you were done with the presentation. Now you have to receive do what you want with the truck report, the recommendations or whatnot.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it was the former 8.5. We moved it up for the benefit of the
Okay. Yeah, we moved it up. Okay.
So this report is proposed to be for receipt, that the petition filed also be received, and that third concession remain a Class B road, but that the residents' concerns and subsequent speed limit reduction petition be addressed through the town's policy for establishing speed limits.
Sorry about that, Council. I missed that. Okay, so we need a mover on that? Councillor Bowman, and need a seconder, please. Councillor Bondi. All in favor of this one? Carried. Now we'll move into 8.6.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, this brings us to the end of what we moved over to delegations. So we're now at the top of reports from administration. 8.1 is Chief Administrative Officer verbal report, update on large development projects toolbox. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I've been working with the CAO on this file, and I can provide some comments in the way of an update.
Go ahead.
It was June 15th, which I'm sure seems like a very, very long time ago for all of us in the public. But it was June 15th in which our CAO first gave a verbal report to council about exploring options to develop a toolbox for large-scale development in the town of Essex. And at that June 15th meeting, council gave us direction to continue with this review. So this review has included looking at options to assist those large-scale developments, specifically as it relates to the significant upfront costs associated with, the construction of municipal infrastructure and services. So I can report that since June, we have been working, and by that, by we, I mean together with our CAO and our treasurer, on developing both a proposed agreement with the developer of a major large-scale residential project here in Essex, while at the same time developing a model policy that can guide the town as it relates to the possibility in the future being able to assist with these types of projects in the future again. And in theory, this could also serve, while the proposed possible agreement that we have is residential, this could also serve as a possible model that we could use, for commercial development, those types of employment generating projects. So a key to developing such an agreement or a policy would be ensuring suitable financing, that there's a suitable financing structure, while also ensuring appropriate security in place, right? To ensure that the ratepayers are not unreasonably impacted. And then as well, the goal here in coming to council with a policy in the near future is to develop a decision-making matrix so that in the future, when there's future town development applications where front-end financing of infrastructure is a possibility, there'll be some sort of a decision-making matrix that can be used and hopefully followed. So while a formal report to council together with a bylaw still needs to be drafted and brought to council's regular meeting in January, I just wanted to report that we have reached a tentative agreement, subject to council's approval, of course. We've reached a tentative agreement with the local developer that we've been working with since June. A tentative agreement that could provide front-end financing to the developer relating to those upfront costs for the development. And in a nutshell, I guess a tiny nutshell, the authority for it is Section 10 of the, and this will be laid out a little bit better in the report, but Section 10 of the Municipal Act allows the town to lend money relating to the cost of capital works to be constructed with respect to what Section 110 calls municipal capital facilities, which could be a wide range of items of works, equipment, machinery, but specifically included in that is infrastructure. Any infrastructure relating to whatever it ends up being, utilities, water, sewer, stormwater, drainage. And because infrastructure is considered to be municipal capital facilities, then there's a section in the Municipal Act, section 110.3, which basically states that financial assistance by a town to assist with the construction of municipal infrastructure is considered a specific exemption from the general prohibition as far as municipal bonusing. And even if that was the case, what we're proposing here would likely not be considered as bonusing in any event, because the developers would not be getting a windfall, as they say, or an obvious advantage, which is sometimes the test that's used when municipal bonusing might be an issue. But it's specifically exempted anyways. But what we're proposing here is for the developers to be loaned up to possibly 100% of the actual cost, or up to a defined maximum amount. That would be set by the town, and that would depend on the town's financial position or capabilities at that time. The developer would still pay a competitive rate of interest with specific terms and conditions, and with the town at all times maintaining an appropriate amount of security over the land to once again maintain and protect the taxpayer interest. The security, as far as going forward on a policy, the security is going to vary case by case, but the policy to be developed will outline or lay out those options further. In this particular tentative arrangement that we have with the developer, the loan will be advanced as the construction of the infrastructure begins, and then continuing on a progress basis. The town will retain security on the loan amounts advanced in the form of a priority mortgage over the lands, and the amount of the security or mortgage will draw down as the development is built and payments are made. As the developer builds from phase to phase, they will not be able to move to a next phase of the development unless and until that loan has been paid down to a minimum defined percentage. The developer would make quarterly progress payments on the loan together with interest, and those payments would be tied to the completion and sale of homes in the development. But once again, always with the requirement that the loan be drawn down to a particular minimum percentage. And then additionally, besides having a priority mortgage over those lands, the town would further have as additional security, the authority to pass a bylaw at any time to impose capital charges under section 12 or part 12 of the Municipal Act relating to fees and charges. And they would be able to impose those charges to recover and collect in the same manner as taxes the cost of these capital facilities. For example, if there's a default or non-payment under that loan. So as far as the proposed policy going forward, the policy again will provide guidance as to other options that may exist to assist developers, and together with the setting of proposed criteria for what type of developments could be eligible for such assistance. And again, we will be looking to have council review the proposed agreement with the developer as a bylaw at the next meeting, together with receipt of a council report with that policy. And that's it.
Thank you, Rob. This is very, very good. I'll be honest with you. I was approached by a big developer here that's doing a big development here in town, and he asked me on this here, and I brought this forward to our CAO, and to our CAO did a hell of a job putting this together with Jeff, and I worked very closely with them both. I think I've come in every week and ask where it's at, and even with Rob, our clerk, I pushed and pushed and pushed to see where it was at, and me, I'm the type I want it to happen like yesterday. But this is good. This is a good report. This is good for the town on big development. So I'm going to open it up to council for any discussion on it. Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it sounds like a very unique process that we're going to maybe take on, and a better alternative to waiving development fees, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, anything that we can do to be creative and give us a little edge over other municipalities and get these developers building in our town is a win-win for sure. Thanks very much for everyone's work on that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Guerin. And Deputy Mayor Malash was involved with this too. Him and I had many conversations on this one here. It's good. It's a win-win all the way around. So any other discussion on this one? Councillor Van den Dolen, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, it is a unique approach. I wish we didn't have to do it this way, but I don't think we have any choice. We've got to get some of these developments kick-started. I think once they go, I think the momentum will take them all the way to the end, but it's getting them off the sidelines. And in this case, the sidelines have been occupied for a quarter of a century. So I think we have to do it this way. My question is to administration, when do they think that this financial instrument will be first accessed? Which month?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know specifically. I know in the proposed agreement, we've provided for up to a 12-month period to begin the infrastructure work, but I don't know if there's been some more recent discussions.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, just through your worship, just a little more detail on that. Well, actually, not more detail, less detail. I think in January, we'll probably have a better discussion about that when we bring an actual agreement to council. So tonight was really just to highlight some good news that we're pretty much at the finish line with both an agreement and a policy around it, so that if there are other developments that come forward, it's there for them to access that potential as well. So I think notwithstanding the details provided tonight, the report in January will outline and probably answer a lot of the questions you have swirling around in your head right now.
Once again, Chris, thanks for the work you put into this. I know you put many hours in here. Anybody else from council? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion to receive the report, please. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Guerin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.2 is also a verbal report from the Deputy CAO, and that this verbal report concerns the waiving of fees for town leases during lockdown.
Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Previously, when the province was in a mandated lockdown, the town suspended all lease payments for our tenants that are in town facilities. Currently, we have 9 that are active, 2 that can still operate, but for the other 7, I want to come back to council to see if you wish to suspend the payments for those 7 that, with being in gray and being locked down, that they can't open. And if so, we're looking at making that effective as of Monday, December 14th, when the lockdown took effect.
Thank you, Doug. I think that's wise. Any discussion on this one? Go ahead.
Motion.
I need a motion. Deputy Mayor Malash, you going to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, and, did you have a question, Deputy Mayor?
Question after you get a seconder.
Okay, seconder was Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
All in favor?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Just to Mr. Sweet, just wondering dollar value of this motion that we're making.
Yep, to you, Mr. Mayor. For those 7, it'd be $4,162 per month.
Sorry, you skipped. I didn't get the dollar amount.
$4,162.
Thank you.
4,000. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that question. Anybody else? All in favor of this? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.3 on the agenda is Economic Development 2020 Rebuilding Report and Development Overview for the month of November. And this is for council's receipt for information this evening.
Any questions on this one? Did you have a question or just want to make a motion to receive it?
Just move receipt.
Yeah. Councillor Bjorkman, a seconder, please. Councillor Verbeek, discussion? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
8.4 is corporate services 2020-05, revised schedules to bylaws 1812, 1331, and 1850. That said report be received and that the following 3 schedules be revised as indicated, effective as of January 1st, 2021. Schedule C to bylaw 1812, Schedule A to bylaw 1331, and Schedule B to bylaw 1850.
Mover on this one, please. Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Verbeek. Any discussion on this one? All in favor of this? Carried. Thank you.
.6 on this evening's agenda is infrastructure services 2020-14, proposed allocation of remaining Union Water Supply System treatment capacity for receipt, and that council authorize the Director of Infrastructure Services to draft and send a response letter of non-support for the correspondence received on November 2nd regarding the proposed allocation.
Good, thank you. Now I can speak on this one. Again, I'm going to thank Councillor Vandendolen for really coming forward there and putting your word out there for the need of future development in our area. And to Kevin, looking at future development too, we got to make sure that we allocate enough water for our development here. So I want to thank you both. So what's the pleasure of council here tonight on this one? Can I have a mover on this? Need a mover. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Vandendolen. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Did you have a question? Anybody? Did you have a question, Deputy Mayor? No. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.7, infrastructure services 2020-13, sanitary service area amendment for receipt, and that council appoint Stantec Consulting Limited to provide the consultant services to complete an amendment to the Town of Essex improvements to Ward 1 community sanitary sewer system, class environmental assessment EA phase 1 and 2, all in accordance with the completed request under section 22 of the procurement bylaw.
Need a mover on this one, please. Councillor Vandendolen and Councillor Bowman. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
8.8, planning 2020-29, site-specific zoning amendment and site plan control approval for 1110 Ridge Road, Colchester South, Ward 3. That said report be received. That bylaw 1978, being a bylaw to amend 1037, the comprehensive zoning bylaw, be read a first, a second, a third time and be finally passed. And that bylaw 1979, being a bylaw to enter into a site plan control agreement between the Town of Essex and Upper Canada Growers Land Incorporated, be read also a first, second, and third time and be finally passed.
Need a mover on that. We had quite a discussion on this one, so I need a mover. Councillor Bowman and seconder, please. Councillor Guerin. All in favor of this one? Carried. Thank you.
Item 10 on the agenda this evening, Mr. Mayor, is updates from County Council.
I haven't got it. Deputy Mayor Malash, did you have any?
Just to let people know, keep their ear to the ground. There'll be an announcement soon as to our new CAO.
Yeah.
For the County of Essex, not the town of.
That hasn't been released publicly yet, has
No,
it?
I was hoping it was going to be released before today, but no.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
Item 11.1, that all of the correspondence listed in 11.1 be received and were indicated to further share with the community.
Could I have a mover to receive it? And if there's any questions, we'll come back. Councillor Guerin and Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions on any of them? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's a couple of them that I wanted to pull. First of all, I thought it was worth noting that the BIA's letter here to to our Premier Doug Ford and Minister Elliott was a very good letter. Listed all the reasons and the common sense approach to shutting down businesses. Why are we shutting down businesses when large businesses or small businesses when large businesses are operating? If anyone gets a chance, please go on our website. I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but it's worth a read for sure. And it's exactly what a lot of us are already stating, and a lot of businesses want to have heard. So you can actually pick this letter up, rewrite it a little bit the way you want, and send this in to Doug Ford and Minister Elliott to make sure that they hear your voices. Secondly, I just want to, there's a letter in here from the Ministry of Heritage, Sports and Tourism. And I just want to again congratulate our administration and make sure that the public knows in this meeting that we're receiving a letter that we've received a $25,000 grant to support the unlocking of agricultural potential in Southern Ontario, which is the town of Essex. This $25,000 will be spent. And that's to develop our agricultural tourism sector. And congratulations to our administration for applying for this and getting it and putting in a grant application that was successful. And thirdly, I've got one under Municipality of Leamington has a letter here asking for support of municipalities in regard to cannabis production facilities. And I don't think that we've received this one and supported it. So this is in regard to making sure that those facilities that are growing cannabis actually have licenses that are sorry, not licenses, but are under the same regulations as our larger outfits. There's some that were under the old regime of legislature for cannabis growing operations, and they don't have the same rules. And it sounds like here they want to ensure that we are going to be, they're all going to be on a level playing field. We still have a couple of rogue operations within the town of Essex, and it'd be nice to have everyone under the same regulations. So I'm proposing that we support the town of Leamington's resolution here, and I'm moving that to support it.
Anybody else on anything? Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be mindful of time, I do want to just say that, Mr. Deputy Mayor, you touched on all three letters that I wanted to touch on. The letter from the BIA, I do encourage people to take some pieces out of that and resend it, because they really highlight how by letting the big boxes sell non-essential items, we're funneling crowds and crowds into the big boxes and leaving our small businesses closed. But I don't think there's anybody that doesn't get that. But yes, this would be a great letter to copy, paste, and send on. But about the letter of you'd like to receive and support, I was seconding that. The letter from the municipality of Leamington on the cannabis, I was seconding his motion to support it.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a current motion from Councillor Guerin, Deputy Mayor Milosh. Are they both agreeable to receiving all of the correspondence, and then we can pull the Leamington correspondence out as a separate motion for support?
Yeah, you're okay with that, both of you? Okay. I think Councillor Bondi had something else to
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have spent the last 4 or 5 days going around throughout Essex County, talking to businesses and just hearing their different concerns. So I want to speak to the public health memo to elected representatives December 14th. I also watched a couple of times the December 14th health unit meeting, and the Dr. Ahmed said that it's political pressure that is going to change what is happening. And I do know that our premier announced today that we're in further lockdown. So I feel like it's an upwind battle, but I still think we need to continue that battle, because even if we get knocked down, we have to still get back up. So, and earlier today, I was wondering, should we send a motion or write a letter about banning the non-essential goods in Walmart and big box stores, but I don't think that that's really going to help either. So we need to keep the pressure on the premier, and we need to keep the pressure on the health unit to get the numbers, the numbers that show that small businesses are a cause of COVID. That is something that, you know, when you have the data, then you understand. So right now, small businesses are just wondering why they're being punished. The health unit and our provincial government they did not get ahead of it in long-term care again. We're again in a long-term care crisis, and our business owners are paying for it. So we need to keep pushing to get those numbers. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you're doing that on the health unit board. We did late last night, I was working, and I did send an email to our MPP, and Councillor Guerin jumped on it as well, saying he would like to be part of a meeting. And maybe, Mr. Mayor, we could have a Zoom meeting with our MPP to talk about it. I am familiar with the NDP's strategy for small businesses. And to me, it's very, I would say, Toronto-centric, not necessarily Essex County-centric. It's some of the things in there are like slashing prices to like Uber Eats. Well, we don't really have a lot of like, the cut that Uber Eats takes off of restaurants. We don't really have that here as much. I don't think it's as big an issue either. But I think we need to still fight for our small businesses to go back into red, or go back into, even for gyms, to go back into a formula, a square space formula. And we need to pressure the long-term care homes and the hospitals to get better ventilation, and the schools. It seems like once we shut the windows, then it spiked again. So we cannot let down. I know Councillor Bjorkman's been really successful with letters, Councillor Guerin too. And so I'm just asking that we keep the pressure up. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to add to that, myself and somebody else on council got some emails and being criticized for being the mayor not doing enough for small businesses. I voiced my opinion at the health unit. I voiced my opinion when we had the meeting with the Ontario government. I voiced my opinion. I've been to small businesses in town. I visit the businesses, and they all know that I support them. And yes, with this total lockdown, I strongly believe that these big box stores, except for groceries and pharmaceutical products, everything else should be roped off, because it's not fair. It's not the fair playing field here. But I'm not going to sit there and get criticized for not doing anything. So I'll leave it at that, because that's not fair. That really isn't fair. When I'm on the health unit and pushing for the small businesses, and then turn around, and I don't know why and where it's coming from, but to get criticized for not doing enough for the small businesses. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, on the main motion to accept all except for the Leamington item.
Yeah, all in favor? Carried.
And then, Mr. Mayor, on the Leamington item, Deputy Mayor Malash proposed receive and support.
Yeah, you need a mover on that?
Seconder.
A seconder on that one? Councillor Verbeek, all in favor of that one? Carried, thank you.
Item 12, Mr. Mayor, is committee meeting minutes, that all of the meeting minutes listed in agenda item 12, together with the recommendations to council noted, be received, approved, and adopted as circulated.
Have a mover on that one, please? Councillor Van Dolen, and a seconder, please. Councillor Bowman, any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Item 13 is financial. 13.1, that the bank payments report of November 2020 be ratified as submitted.
Mover on the financial, please. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Bjorkman. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And
Under item 15, notices of motion, 15.1.1, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bondi, just wanted to confirm that that motion is removed or deferred to the roundtable meeting.
Roundtable.
Defer to roundtable, Mr. Clerk and Mr. Mayor, please.
Yep. Okay. 15.2, the following three notices of motion are being presented only this evening and will be brought forward at the January 18th, 21 regular council meeting for council's consideration. Item 1, Deputy Mayor Meloche, re Victoria Avenue in Essex Center. That in view of the fact that Victoria Avenue in Essex Center is one of the premier routes in and out of Essex Center, and that this road has been in disrepair for many years, that the Victoria Avenue Rehabilitation Road Project be included as part of the Downtown Essex Center Revitalization Project scheduled for 2022. Secondly, as item 15.2.2, also the Deputy Mayor, that in order for council to be fully aware of outstanding billings for drainage projects, it is hereby requested that a detailed drainage billings report be brought by administration to council in January or February of 2021 for a full review. And thirdly, as 15.2.3, also moved or as presented by the Deputy Mayor, that with regard to administration's current review of property development standards, that council requests the following additional change be brought forward to administration as part of its property development standards review. Whereas if a builder has to be given relief on yard depths, including any side yard as compared to our standard, that the type of home built on the project, or sorry, that the type of home built on the property be thereby limited to 1 story, meaning no second story and or no backsplit. And as well, the shortening requirement be inclusive of any allowable additional structure, such as a deck that may be permitted as part of the new structure. Item 16, any reports and announcements from the council members this evening?
I'll start with Councillor Van Dolen. Do you have anything?
Just that I hope that the staff and the rest of the council have a very Merry Christmas, a good New Year, and we'll see you in January. That's it.
Good. Deputy Mayor Meloche, go ahead.
Are we doing our Christmas greetings right now?
I guess he did.
Okay.
Yeah, we might as well. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So just wishing all the residents of Essex a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And to all our staff, all our media as well, for that follow us and get our stories out there in the public. We appreciate it. But everybody, please enjoy your Christmas, but please be safe and remember the restrictions that are in place. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Meloche. Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to all of our residents, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everyone. It's been a tough time for a lot of people, for a lot of business. So I say just be kind, take care of each other. You see somebody that needs something, help them out. Anyways, the best of the season to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman, go ahead.
Thank you. Just like to wish all the staff of the town all the best for the new year. They've done a fantastic job for us over the past 12 months and in very hard times. So my hands and the hats go off to them for a fantastic year's work. To my fellow councilors and all the constituents in the municipality, wish all the best for the holiday season. I know it's not what we'd like, but we're all in the same boat together. So again, I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman, and we'll go to Councillor Bondi. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say a big thank you to our staff for doing a good job on the budget. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Of course, stay safe. See if you can do a little curbside purchase before it's too late. And if anybody missed out on the virtual Santa event, I have a little Santa clip that I can send any family. So we had 147 children attend the little virtual Santa event. It was quite successful. So take care. Merry Christmas. If anybody needs any food, remember that Project Hope in Harrow has changed their model. They're open for 1 hour a night now and 1 hour each Saturday and Sunday. So follow them on Facebook. If you are hungry, you can find a way to get some food. Thank you.
Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Okay. No, just want to say Merry Christmas to all and just take care of each other. Be kind.
Thank you. And myself, I want to take this opportunity to really thank our administrative staff for a very successful year. I think we've really come a long way. And we've really grown. And but it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year. So I want our staff and our council and our families to really take precautions this year because of this virus. But I'm hoping everybody has a very, very safe and happy holidays. And we all know that we can't all get together, but pick up the phone and give greetings. So thank you very much to the staff and all our residents out there. Wish them all a very safe holiday, and all our surrounding municipalities in the city of Windsor. Merry Christmas to all. And Councillor Guerin.
Yep, I'd like to also wish town staff, all my fellow councilors, and the entire municipality a happy new year and hopefully a safe and happy holiday. And I'd like to say that if I ever look forward to a better new year, it's this next year coming up. So hopefully it will be.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we'll move right on to where we at now on the agenda.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, bylaws.
Bylaws, we're gonna do the bylaws now.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Bylaw for third reading this evening is 1973 to confirm the proceedings from the December 7th regular council meeting.
Mover, please. Councillor Bowman and Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? It's carried.
For three readings this evening, Bylaw 1975, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the town and the corporation of the city of Windsor related to the Pathway to Potential program.
Mover, please. Councillor Bjorkman, and need a seconder, please. Councillor Bowman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Bylaw 1976, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen as represented by Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture and the town, and this is in relation to the agritourism grant. Three readings.
Mover, please. Councillor Vanadol and Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And Bylaw 1980, also for three readings, being a bylaw to amend Bylaw 1953, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement between the town and its non-union employees.
Mover, Councillor Guerin and Councillor Bjorkman. All in favor? It's carried.
And bylaws for two readings, 1977, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this December 21st, 2020 regular council meeting.
Mover, please. Councillor Guerin and Councillor Bowman. All in favor? You had a question, Deputy Mayor Malash?
Yes, did we skip over 1981?
Yes, we did.
Through
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, 1981 was tabled.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was tabled, yes. Okay. That's it, eh?
Yep. adjourned.
Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Verbeek and Councillor Vanadol, all in favor? Thank you. Listen, everybody have a safe holiday, eh? Be safe, please.
Merry Christmas,
everyone.
Merry Christmas.